Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network, also at 21stcenturywire.com. We're also streaming out live on X, Rumble, YouTube, BitChute. Not Odyssey, but we're working on it. We're trying to get a live stream up on Odyssey this week or next week. Still working on that. Facebook Live. As well as many of the audio streams. And if you miss any of the live broadcast, you can catch the recording, of course, on all these platforms and at 21stcenturywire.com, where we have our show archive of the Sunday Wire and the new midweek Wire, which is broadcasting on Wednesdays or Thursdays, depending on the week. But during the midweek period, that's a new program we launched thanks to the support of our donors and members. Those of you who participated in the winter fundraising drive, really appreciate your support. It's enabled us to expand our programming, so we really appreciate that. Now, we're going to be covering a very important story today, and we'll be joined after the break with some of our members of the team at Alternate Current Radio and here at the Sunday Wire. Going to join us for additional discussions on a number of other stories too. Maybe this one, maybe not. We'll see how the discussion goes. And I want to point people to the platform formerly known as Twitter X, and we ran a couple of spaces, very well attended over the last day or so. The other one was last night. That was on March 8th. That's on our X feed. It's called Syria and the Levant, What's Coming Next? And those were speakers from the region, from the Middle East. And we're very privileged to be joined by a very good panel, a very knowledgeable panel about the region, the geopolitics, the severity, the seriousness of what's happening right now in Syria. So really appreciate our panel members there. And also the night before, Syria holding the U.S. Israel to account. This is where I spoke for about an hour and a half. So we have a good recording there, and a few guests joined us later, including Ryan Dawson, who's an independent media journalist, investigator, researcher. He also weighed in on this topic, plus a number of other things that were also up for discussion later. That was quite a long space, almost 4 hours. But these are extraordinary times. So just to let you know, we're doing these spaces periodically, often on the sort of weekends when we have free time. But we are hosting a few spaces per week. We're going to aim to do at least one geopolitical space a week. It's sometimes difficult. It's a big time commitment along with our other programming, but we think it's important to do. And we're able to put out a lot of free content, a lot of free programming to everybody, to the public, and we want to keep it that way. So it's really important if you consider joining us. We'll put some of the details on the banner along the bottom here to donate and subscribe. Just go to 21stcenturywire.com. At the top of my X profile as well, you'll see a donate button there. That's for 21stcenturywire.com, and also bring on the winter fundraising plate onto the screen here. That's our winter fundraising drive at 21stcenturywire.com. A lot of different options are going to be there for you to donate and support us and subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. So that's really important that you realize that we are doing this, but we need your support. And we've been going since 2009. So we've managed to build a pretty good platform, solidly independent platform here over the years. And we've done that with the support of our listeners, our viewers, our readers at 21stcenturywire.com. We really appreciate all your support going forward as well. We're going to need it. We're going to need it now more than ever. We are still overcoming heavy censorship, especially on YouTube. So it's really important if you're able to, if you see any of our YouTube links, or you can click through to our channel, 21st Century Wire on YouTube, to like and subscribe any of our videos. That helps us to overcome heavy censorship, which we are on a number of lists, some of which were disclosed. These were initially because the U.S. government had been pressuring big tech firms to censor certain accounts and certain journalists. I was one of those. That's documented. And it's just one of those things that, unfortunately, that I've had to face, that our platform has to face. Not everybody has had to face that, of course. If I was just doing, UFOs and flat Earth, I'm sure I could go viral and get 1 million+ views per video. The establishment loved that sort of content. Nothing against those people, of course, but the types of stuff we do, for some reason, was marked as extremely dangerous by the U.S. government and all of these think tanks and USAID blacklists of independent journalists, USAID-funded blacklists put out by Ukrainian organizations to demonize Western journalists. I'm on 2 of those USAID-funded lists. This is designed to defame, but it's also basically fodder for cancellation, basically. It's been used over the years. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is, folks. We're just pointing it out just to let you know that's the kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So it's unfortunate, but so something we have to deal with, and we need your help definitely to overcome some of that adversity. Now, one of the stories that has attracted a lot of, let's say, undue attention and derision from the authorities has been our coverage of the situation in Syria, the conflict in Syria, or as we like to now call it, the dirty war on Syria, the dirty war against Syria, which was waged against that country since 2011. And events in the recent few days have been very shocking. It's brought back a lot of bad memories of the emergence of ISIS in 2014. The only problem is this is ISIS that's been backed by the United States government, by Turkey, by the Israelis, by NATO to take over and to get regime change in Damascus. They've been trying for 14 years. They finally got it. The West and Israel and Turkey have finally got their regime change. Qatar as well. Don't let the Gulf states off the hook. They got their regime change in 2000. And well, they started in 2011 and they eventually got it in 2024 in early December when HTS, aka Al-Qaeda in Syria, was basically allowed to march into Damascus, unfortunately. And unfortunate to say that, unfortunate to say that happened. And it's been a very unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate series of events, but it's something that we've had to endure. And unfortunately, this is just the way history has played out. But it's also vindicated a lot of people for things that they've been calling out and warning about for years. We'll bring up on screen here. This is Mohammed Marandi. He's also been on our program a number of times. And Dr. Marandi, he has tweeted out here. Now, there's a lot of different reports about the number of people that have been slaughtered and massacred by this U.S.-backed Al-Qaeda ISIS regime that's been allowed to take over in Syria. And so we got Syed Mohammed Marandi. He's a professor at the University of Tehran. According to some estimates, over 10,000 Alawites and Christians have been slaughtered in Syria. So obviously the numbers are very hard to confirm, but President Erdogan and Qatar have carried out the genocide, says Marandi. Absolutely, they're backing it, but so are the United States. Even though they've issued a statement condemning it, they've done everything humanly possible to enable this terrorist junta to take power in Damascus. Sadly, Al Jazeera Arabic in particular has revealed itself as no different from I-24 News in Israel. Condolences to humanity, says Mohammed Marandi there. So, I mean, it's regrettable, but this is the way it is. I'll bring up on screen just to give you some point of reference on this. One of the threads that I've put onto social media, we'll bring that up, try to get that centered in the frame here. But there it is. Syria, this is a genocide. This is a genocide. And what I've said here, and we'll have a thread with a number of disturbing images in it. We're not going to spend too much time showing those images. I think people who are on social media have seen many. There can be no reconciliation process for Al-Jolani, otherwise known as Ahmed al-Sharaa. He's he's been rebranded, just like al-Nusra and al-Qaeda rebranded 10 or 15 times. This so-called president of Syria, who is not a legitimate president, he's also rebranded from Al-Jolani, his terrorist moniker, to Ahmed al-Sharaa. He's a Saudi-born operative that's been parachuted into Syria to pose as president with the full backing of the West. His HTS butchers currently massacring religious minorities and ethnic groups in Syria. These savage Takfiri Islamists in Syria have been indiscriminately rounding up, torturing, and executing civilians. This pogrom is enabled and backed by Israel, the United States, the UK, Turkey, Qatar, and the European Union, mercilessly targeting Christians, Alawites, Druze, Ismailis, and this is all part of the new Free Syria, as the West and regime change cheerleaders like to call it. And I also said the HTS terrorist junta occupying Damascus would like to thank the following Western political figures for their enthusiastic endorsements of the Al-Jolani regime ahead of this week's mass killings. Antonio Guterres, that is the Secretary General of the United Nations, endorsed this former head of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, this head chopper. Jolani was endorsed by Guterres. We'll show you the photo in a moment. The U.S. State Department also sent an envoy to legitimize this terrorist government. This is Donald Trump's envoy. Rory Stewart, former parliamentarian in the UK, has also endorsed Jolani with a photo op. Alistair Campbell, this is Tony Blair's former spin doctor. He's also endorsed Jolani, made him somewhat legitimate by getting the photo op. Annalena Baerbock, we'll show you the footage as well of her. And Barrot, the French foreign minister, and Kaya Kallas also met with HTS Al-Qaeda ministers to legitimize this government. And we have this thread here. And just to say, there's plenty of footage of victims, as you can see. People targeted, this ritual humiliation that Alawites in particular are being forced to undergo. So tortured, humiliated before they're killed in many cases. So this is the Assad must go regime change crowd. They got what they wished for, unfortunately, and so on and so forth. But so there's Antonio Guterres. You can see here, and bring him up on screen, shaking hands with the terrorist leader Jolani, unelected, took power by force of arms. So that's interesting. That's new. And here he is. This is Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell, who are basically in a photo op with Jolani, kind of legitimizing him, giving him that seal, that British seal of approval. And at the same time, the British government is lifting sanctions on this terrorist junta that's seized power and implemented their own sort of Sharia law version of the former Syrian constitution. And it's just pretty much everybody has fallen over themselves to go and be seen with this regime. And this is a really important thread here, which I also linked to. This is by Hekmat Abu Qatar, and he's basically chronicling, keeping kind of a record of the March 7th pogrom here, and it just goes on and on. There's so many different examples. He's posted them here. Not all of these are able to be displayed. X is now censoring quite a few of these in order to sort of cover up the violence, if you will. I personally think it's extremely unsavory, extremely ugly, but unfortunately, I think it kind of needs to be seen. Here's one example here. We'll bring the So as you can see, the liberators of Syria there, the long-bearded terrorists, are beating Syria's citizens unarmed with shovels, axes, and before summarily executing them in public. So far, thousands have been killed by various reports, and not a word from the mainstream media. In fact, how the press is actually covering this is quite an extraordinary thing. We'll bring up Al Jazeera's coverage on this, which I think is pretty shocking, but this just should give you an idea of where these people are coming from. Now, understand that Al Jazeera, while they might cover this, the situation in Gaza, with a pro-Palestinian perspective, okay, and they do good journalism. It's very important to make this point. Al Jazeera do excellent journalism on that topic, but they do serve as controlled opposition because they have spent hundreds of billions of dollars, Qatar, the Emirate of Qatar, to overthrow and put the terrorist regime in power, and they've done that in cooperation and full coordination with Israel and the United States and Turkey, okay, in Syria for the last 14 years. They bankrolled it. Qatar underwrote the entire project. The U.S. provided weapons, special forces, all sorts of intelligence. Turkey provided their country as safe haven to build up terrorist forces to invade Syria. They also used their military to illegally occupy parts of Syria to keep the Syrian army off balance, threatening to do more incursions. Jordan also took part in this as well, providing similar staging as Turkey. Israel provided the air cover for Al-Qaeda and ISIS. They provided airstrikes to constantly push around and kill, in some cases, Syrian army soldiers and anybody helping them to repel this terrorist invasion for the last 14 years. Okay, that's just the beginning of this international effort. The UK, the Netherlands, Germany, Norway, all played their role, along with every other NATO country, France, in order to destabilize and destroy the country of Syria. To top it off, they also sanctioned them, strangled them. The United States occupied their oil fields to steal their fuel, steal their food, and then team up with Kurdish militias, paying them cash in order to fight with the U.S. to occupy a third of Syria's landmass, again, in order to destabilize and strangle the country. Okay, that's what was done, and all the West could do is blame Assad. So here, Al Jazeera is still doing it. This is the worst level of journalism you could possibly imagine. The headline: dozens reported killed as Syrian forces and pro-Assad fighters clash. Pro-Assad fighters. Syria's Alawite stronghold sees days of deadly violence between Assad loyalists and, quote, security forces. So HTS was Al-Qaeda a couple months ago, and now they're security forces. Okay, so Qatar paid for the toppling of the Syrian state, for the collapse of the Syrian state, and now they're calling Al-Qaeda, ISIS terrorists who took over the country as, quote, security forces. There's no legitimacy whatsoever for this so-called government in Damascus. They're only given legitimacy out of convenience for the people that have paid to destroy this country. Okay, Assad loyalists. Assad is no longer in power in Syria. I don't know if Al Jazeera got the memo or not, but they're not. He's not actually there. He's not actually in the country even. So these aren't Assad loyalists. These are people most likely defending their community from sectarian violence from the terrorists that are in control of Damascus. Okay, shameless, quote, journalism by Al Jazeera. There's no other way to put it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I there's a number of other examples that we can throw on screen here. In terms of media coverage, look at this. Democracy Now! 70 killed as Syrian forces clash with Assad loyalists. So Democracy Now! Is establishment-controlled opposition that's placed onto the left of the political spectrum to give the appearance that there's some kind of opposition, but this is a very corrupt organization, Democracy Now! And they played a very big role in lobbying for regime change in Syria, as have Human Rights Watch and Ken Roth, the head of Human Rights Watch, have played a particularly dirty and shameful role in campaigning and lobbying for the destruction of Syria as a government, as a state over the years, saying that there were, promoting the quote moderate rebels or Free Syrian Army, because Assad is this kind of Hitlerian figure that they've constructed for the region. So this is just a couple examples of the terrible media coverage. As far as the mainstream goes, they pretty much ignored it. They pretty much ignored coverage altogether. There is a statement that's been issued by the U.S. Government. We'll try to bring that up on stage as well so people can see. But that statement is, well, belated, let's just say. This is from, I think the one that they've issued is from Marco Rubio. We'll bring that up on stage as well. We'll see if we can get Rubio's little bits up on stage. Bring that there. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. Statement by Marco Rubio. Let's have a closer look at that. I'm not sure if let's see the date. Oh, March 9th. So, a couple of days late, obviously. But U.S. government's busy. So I guess in terms of pogroms and massacres, especially ones carried out by forces which they supplied arms to and gave political cover to, statement by Marco Rubio about the escalating fighting in the region there. Yeah, so he's basically lamenting all these terrible things that have happened. This is violence against Christian, Druze, Alawite. Notice the order, of course. It's Christian first, always, then Druze. Okay, the U.S. see them as a potential ally. So does Israel, and Alawites are the ones who are mainly being slaughtered, are usually left towards the end. Because they were supposedly, because they were the same sect as Bashar al-Assad, that they're sort of treated by the West as Assad loyalists, inconvenient problems, and second-class minorities in Syria. Not that anybody in America, much less Marco Rubio, really cares about the people of Syria. He cares more about the people of Israel. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is, folks. So anyway, there they go, issuing the statement there. But, March 9th, not bad. Took them 3 days. And it's just good to know that the U.S. government knows that something's going on there. So that's in itself encouraging. So congratulations, Washington and the Trump administration. So where else do we go on this? I mean, it's important that people understand that these people in charge, these are the same people that were the moderate rebels. These are the same people that were branded as the quote Free Syrian Army. These are the same people that were Jabhat al-Nusra. These are the same people that were ISIS. Okay, the same people that were the Syrian National Army. They used all these terms to somehow legitimize them, to move them out of the terrorist watch list until the terrorist watch list caught up with them, and they would rebrand again to, Arar al-Sham, Nur al-Din Zinki, Jael Islam, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And all these, quote, terrorist experts have made a career out of keeping up with all the rebranding of their U.S. proxies that were unleashed on this poor country to destroy it, basically. So they got their wish at the end. They got their wish. They got control of the government. Bashar al-Assad, who was president, fled the country. So they all got their wish eventually here. There's Kalia Kallas, the foreign minister there for the European Union, legitimizing and endorsing the HTS terrorists. Notice how they put them in suits, just like Jolani. They've dressed them up in suits and ties in order to make them look somewhat Western. And then they meet with them. And these photo ops are basically endorsements. They're endorsements of this regime. And all of these endorsements came ahead of this massacre. Most notably, the Arab League, and also the endorsement by Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations. So they're effectively endorsing a terrorist junta. And then that terrorist junta, of course, takes that endorsement as carte blanche and then goes and starts to slaughter ethnic minorities, religious minorities like the Alawites in Syria. This is a pogrom, okay? This is an attempted genocide. It does fall under the definition of genocide by the international definition that war crime, that crime against humanity. So, you know, but it takes a lot to wake up the West. Obviously, there was a genocide going on in Gaza. Didn't really get their attention too much in the West. Well, because Israel was carrying out that genocide. So it's sort of, they gave it a pass, let's say. But this is the talking points now are this, which is, and I'm going to be critical of this as well. So Candace Owens weighing in about how she was right about calling this out back on December 7th, 2024. Okay. Now, there are many other independent journalists calling this out 10 years ago, warning about it 14, 15 years ago. Okay. But of course, they don't have big platforms and they're not regarded as consensus reality chaperones, if you will. So Candace says Christians are about to be mass slaughtered. Pray for Syria. Okay. I support that sentiment. Okay. I support that sentiment. But the Americans only seem to be concerned with that side of things, is the Christian side. So this is just an unfortunate byproduct of the American political setup at the moment. And Tucker Carlson is also part of this. This is the thing apparently that Tucker is most, upset about. That's what gets him kind of riled up, is the fact that Christians are being targeted here. And not to pick on Tucker, of course, but we'll bring Tucker back up on stage in a moment. But not to pick on Tucker. I mean, I support Tucker's wanting to obviously boost this issue, but I don't like the fact that the only thing that they seem to be outraged about is the fact that Christians are being targeted. And here's Tucker right now. We'll take a look at his tweet here, and I'll read this off. As predicted, he says, as predictable as this is, it's still infuriating to see it. For decades, Bashar al-Assad's protected minority religious communities in Syria, including the country's large Christian population. Well, the country doesn't have a large Christian population anymore, Tucker. And part of the reason is that because of the U.S. has been backing a terrorist insurgency. NATO, Israel have been backing a terrorist insurgency in that country nonstop since 2011. Okay. And so unfortunately that has bled some of the Christian population there. And so it's not large. It's smaller than it was. And now it's going to be even smaller, of course. And no one in the United States was allowed to notice this. That's not true. I noticed it, as did many thousands of others, but unfortunately we don't have mainstream media platforms. So I guess we noticed it, but the people that matter, which aren't us, which are people from the mainstream media, they matter. So they didn't notice it. Tucker, to his credit, pointed out this dirty war on a number of occasions while he was at Fox News, and we applaud him for that. But unfortunately, not enough. Not enough. He says Barry Weiss declared Tulsi Gabbard as monstrous and Assad toady. That was on Joe Rogan. I remember that. Barry Weiss is basically an Israeli operative of sorts, masquerading as an independent journalist. Runs a media outlet called, quote, the Free Press. I can't believe someone took the name Free Press and took it and appropriated it for their own media outlet, which that says something in itself. But that's the sort of people we're dealing with, unfortunately. Assad protected the Christians. Yes, he protected the Christians, the Alawites, the Smileys, the Shiite, everybody. Okay. And I don't hear the word Shiites mentioned here, nor does Tucker mention any of the Muslims that were slaughtered by these terrorists that Assad was protecting, including the Sunni Muslims. The most amount of people killed by ISIS and Al-Qaeda were Sunni Muslims in the last 14 years. I think that's true, by all these extremists backed by the West and Israel. But nobody in the West can shed a tear for them because that's not politically correct. Here's Tucker's quote tweeting Eyal Yacobi, who is a Zionist, basically. So because this is a Zionist tweeting it, it's safe to retweet it. And what he is tweeting here are these HTS savage barbarians riding Alawites like horses there, probably before they kill them. And again, they are targeting Christians, Druze, and Alawites. So Alawites last, even though they're the number one victim of this pogrom. But this is an Israeli account, which Tucker's quote tweeting. So I guess that makes it okay. It gives it some extra, I understand, it gives it some extra political resiliency when speaking up in the United States. So I get that. So anyway, just an example, ladies and gentlemen, just an example of how that hypocrisy goes. And so here's DC Drano. This is another conservative influencer who was given access to the Epstein files. That was a big nothing burger. And this is a person who gets community noted a lot, has tweeted out fake news on, countless occasions, but is favored by Elon Musk, therefore is allowed to grow to galactic proportions. And he says, we watched Islamic extremists slaughter over 1,000 innocent Jews on October 7th. Okay. Is that including IDF combatants? I guess those are, anyway, we'll get into that later. Now we're watching Islamic extremists slaughter thousands of innocent Christians in Syria. What DC Drano, this is a very low IQ take, by the way, extremely low IQ take, but this is what you get on the American right. When it comes to geopolitics, it tends to be somewhat, let's just say, simple. What he's not mentioning, of course, is that Israel acted as the Air Force for these Al-Qaeda ISIS hordes as they destroyed and tore Syria to pieces. Okay. Israel did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of airstrikes in support of these maniacs. Okay. And they exfiltrated a number of them, gave them medical care, and even gave them safe haven inside Israel. Yep. DC Drano, unfortunately, doesn't know that or doesn't care. That's too deep for him. And the United States government, the US of A, armed all these maniacs. So obviously DC Drano never covered any of that, wasn't interested in it because it doesn't fit his narrative, which is to demonize Muslims and to create, to increase the victim status of Israel, and to use the sort of Jewish Islamic paradigm and Christian in order to divide and really set up, I think, a pretext for what a lot of these people are doing is pumping up attack on Iran rhetoric at the moment. So they're trying to spin this. The Iranians, and this is another thing DC Drano probably doesn't understand, Hezbollah and the Iranian Quds forces and Qasem Soleimani, who Donald Trump ordered assassinated, they fought these Islamic extremists, as DC Drano calls them, HTS, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. They fought them. They were defeating them, in fact. They were defeating them. But the United States intervened, Israel intervened to stop them. They killed their leaders and called them terrorists. Okay. So the people fighting ISIS were deemed to be terrorists by the US and the Israeli government. Isn't that interesting? ISIS doesn't attack Israel, but if you attack ISIS, you're a terrorist. That's exactly how it played out. And so this brings up another point, and this is for all the MAGA supporters. Okay. I'm going to give you a big black pill right now, and you're not going to like it. But of course, those people who watch this show, this is not new for you. You know all this. Those who follow 21st Century Wire over the years, our coverage on Syria, on the Middle East, on this program, on Sunday Wire, you know all this. Okay. But I'm going to drop this anyway for any MAGAs. Okay. Just so you know. And again, I try to be objective and try to be agnostic when it comes to geopolitics. It's better to call balls and strikes than to be a domestic political partisan, because if you're a domestic political partisan, this goes for the influencers and so-called journalists on X, okay? If you're a domestic political partisan, you cannot possibly get the news right, okay? You're always going to have these wide-ranging blind spots for Israel and the United States government, or demonize the Biden administration, but not the Trump administration. Okay. We have to lay the responsibility at the feet of those responsible. Okay. And understand this. Okay, very important concept. The terrorist, barbarian savages that took over Damascus were backed by the United States, armed by the United States, given intelligence. Our special forces helped to train them. American, British, French, all of that. Okay, we even had people fighting with them. Okay, we had commanders in East Aleppo coordinating for them. Okay, so let's just get that straight. Now, eventually, the Russians and the Syrian army and Hezbollah and the Iranians pushed these savages into the Idlib province. Idlib is a province that's just northwest of Aleppo, bordering Turkey. Okay, this is where all of the terrorists were sent through the help with the Russians and the Syrian government. They managed to empty out to get them out of Damascus, where they were holding whole neighborhoods hostage. Okay, and Homs and all these other places, East Aleppo, and they herded them into one place, which was Idlib, so they could deal with them later. And when they were ready to deal with them in 2018, there was a counteroffensive that was being waged, and this would have ended the HTS, Al-Qaeda, ISIS problem. It would have ended it. And guess who intervened? Guess who intervened? Who was president of the United States in 2018? Okay, and I'm saying Donald Trump has to own it, but he's bragging about it, but in the most ridiculous, crazy way. This is a video clip of Donald Trump at a rally in 2019 or 2020, I think, on the campaign trail, boasting about how he stopped these forces from finally extinguishing the Al-Qaeda ISIS problem in Syria. Listen very carefully. This is from 2019, 2020. This is Trump boasting about the role he played in saving Private Jolani. Here's Abu Donald.
And Syria is a mess. And I was responsible, and I hope it stays that way, when I put out on social media a few weeks ago about Idlib province. I said, don't do it. And I'll tell you, it happened where I was at a meeting with a lot of supporters, and a woman stood up and she said, there's a province in Syria with 3 million people. Right now, the Iranians, the Russians, and the Syrians are surrounding that province, and they're going to kill my sister, and they're going to kill millions of people in order to get rid of 25,000 or 35,000 terrorists or enemies of theirs, but I think we can call them terrorists. And I said, that's not going to happen. I didn't hear of Idlib province. And I came back to New York, and I picked up the failing New York Times. I hate to admit it was the New York Times, but it was the failing New York Times. And I opened it up, not on the front page, but there was a very big story. I said, wow, that's the same story that the woman told me that I found hard to believe, because how would anyone do that with 3 million people? And it said that they were being surrounded, and they were going in and starting literally the next day, they were going to drop bombs all over the place and perhaps kill millions of people in order to get 35,000 terrorists. And I put out on social media and elsewhere, I gave Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, everybody these orders. Don't let it happen. I said, don't let it happen. That doesn't mean they can't be selective. They can't be, go in and they've got to do what they've got to do with terrorists, assume the terrorists, but don't kill millions of people. And it stopped. You saw that. Nobody's going to give me credit, but that's okay. That's okay, because the people know. I have had more Syrians thank me for that. This was about 4 weeks ago I put that out. I said, they're surrounding a city of 3 million people. They're going to start bombing the city. Don't let it happen. And I meant it, too. I meant it. And millions of people have been saved.
So, it does also demonstrate the limited geographical ability of that U.S. president. There is no 3 million person city in Idlib, okay? They're claiming that the population of Idlib was 3 million. It's actually much less, okay? So he's exaggerating to create this image of a city of 3 million that the Syrians and the Russians were going to go and bomb indiscriminately, like it was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Russians and the Syrians don't do that. The U.S. does that. The U.S. did that to Mosul and Raqqa and a number of other cities over the years. Fallujah, for example. That's what the United States does. So Trump's projected U.S. scorched earth policy and assumes that that's what everybody else does. No, that was a planned counteroffensive. The U.S. threatened hellfire and damnation if they did not back down. And then Turkey promised to help mediate the situation and deal with the terrorist problem. And so Syria and its allies backed down temporarily, okay, in 2018. And Turkey stabbed everybody in the back because Turkey wanted that terrorist army to fester of 35,000. So you can blame Turkey for their typical double dealing because they backed the terrorist insurgency. They're one of its main, if not its biggest sponsor. Okay. So that's Donald Trump. So we will give you credit, Donald. Let's give you credit where credit's due. Abu Donald, saving Private Jolani in Idlib, 2018. Can make it into a Hollywood blockbuster. How Donald Trump saved Al-Qaeda and ISIS from extinction. He just boasted about it, ladies and gentlemen, right there. Okay. And to imagine that he did this because a Syrian came up, Syrian woman, who was one of these, Free Syrian Army lobbyists in Washington, who wanted Assad must go. There's so many of them on the payroll of all these U.S. sponsored think tanks. And she convinced him that somehow 3 million women and children were going to get killed. It's patently ridiculous. So anyway, that's Donald Trump's, one of his crowning achievements in his first term was defending ISIS and Al-Qaeda from extinction. Okay. And one of the people that pushed him to do that was Lindsey Graham, because Lindsey Graham and John McCain, of course, that was one of John McCain's big projects, was regime change in Syria. John McCain helped to free up the funding to arm all of these savages. Okay. So Graham was there to make sure that McCain's legacy carried on. Okay. So that was 2018-19. I'm not sure where McCain was, if he was still alive at that point. But that's why all the neocons like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. So Donald Trump's kind of told you a little lesson of history there, that he delegated that to maniacs, neocons like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. He just admitted it. Okay. Completely inconsistent, completely contradictory. And that was Trump's first term. Okay. The other thing he did was assassinate Qasem Soleimani at the orders of Benjamin Netanyahu. And that's an interesting backstory on that as well. And again, that's Mike Pompeo, who was really running everything for Trump, and John Bolton and people like this. And also there's a couple of other things like pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, which now this Trump 2.0 is going to say that, well, we need to get a new nuclear deal. Well, they already had one. They spent 3 years organizing, and Trump and Pompeo, under the orders of Benjamin Netanyahu, pulled the rug out from under the Iran nuclear deal after his first year in office, and arguably made the region less safe and arguably encouraged Iran to pursue a nuclear weapon. There's no evidence that they do have a nuclear weapon, but I'm sure they could organize one pretty quickly. And with the amount of threats they're getting from Israel and the U.S. right now, they're probably very well incentivized to get a nuclear weapon to protect themselves in the way that North Korea has. Okay. But all of this would not even be a conversation piece if not for what Donald Trump did in his first term, which was destroy a perfectly good international agreement. One of the things that Obama did that was actually positive and productive. One of the few things that Barack Obama did when he was president. So, I mean, we could go on and on. The contradictions, the hypocrisy. It's just too much. It's beyond the pale. Here's Annalena Baerbock. This was back in December 20th. Germany says Kurdish militias in Syria must be disarmed, and she said they must be integrated into the HTS terrorist junta government. There's no elections in Syria, by the way. And the terrorist in charge, Jolani, again here, endorsed by Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, he said there's going to be no elections in Syria. Okay. Just understand what that means. Understand what that means. It's always been throughout history that whenever we are sort of backing a regime change, that at that point, that the European powers are going to demand elections, basically. So this has always been the tradition. So why this is different now, it's just unbelievable. So anyway, no elections in Syria, and everybody's fine with that. Just like no elections in Ukraine, and everybody's fine with that. So think about this for a moment. So you have a situation in the United States now where the US government is arresting, deporting students that are protesting the Israeli genocide in Gaza, withholding funding from Columbia University, getting presidents fired for not clamping down on free speech. Okay. And they're accusing these students who are human rights campaigners of being pro-Hamas and being, quote, anti-Semitic. Okay. They're so concerned with anti-genocide human rights campaign students in America, so concerned about it's linked to terrorism somehow. This is the rhetoric of Marco Rubio and everybody else, and the entire Fox News magpie chorus. Okay. So that's of such grave concern that we have to suspend the First Amendment in the United States. Okay. Elon Musk, of course, the free speech absolutist, has nothing to say about this because it involves Israel, so he keeps his mouth shut. Right. But suddenly, Elon Musk is now concerned about, what's happening in Syria, because I guess Cat Turd told him, Elon, you better tweet about this. You better tweet about this. Here, we'll bring this up on screen here. So this is Elon getting involved in the Syria conversation here. And of course, who's he talking to? But Peter Sweden, who's one of these race hustlers from Sweden, apparently, who, like so many of them, fly under a fake sock puppet account. But Elon boosts him because obviously Elon is himself a race hustler. So Peter Sweden says here on X, why is the mainstream media ignoring Christians being slaughtered? There we go again, by the regime in Syria. No, it's mostly Alawites that are being slaughtered. And other Muslims, Peter Sweden. What's this guy's real name? He is such a clown, this guy. If you've ever seen him, any videos he makes, he's a ridiculous human being. But anyway, Elon Musk is saying, how many people have been killed? So Elon's now concerned. I mean, obviously, these are slightly brown toned skinned people. So this is quite a big departure for Elon to be concerned about people who are, being subjugated somewhere in the world who are not white. So it is kind of shocking and surprising. And of course, Alex Barencoat here, independent journalist, says, why do you care about Christians in Syria and not Christians in Gaza? Good point, Alex. And that's Elon. Suppressed News weighs in. More than 60,000 Palestinians since October 7th, including Christians, were killed by Israel. But you don't care because it was done by your buddy Netanyahu, do you? Says Suppressed News here. So it's incredible. So they're all calling out Musk, okay? They're all calling out Musk. So that's the extent of, the opposition that you're going to get from people like this. And when you have European leaders endorsing these people, these terrorists, so they're suddenly concerned about it in America. They're suddenly concerned, but not fully concerned. Only because it's safe to say, because Christians are being slaughtered, Christians are being pogromed, and therefore, because it's Christian, that they should be outraged about that. I'll give you yet another example of this as well. Here's another example. Mark Levine, who is a carnival barker, who is moonlighting as a news pundit of sorts. We'll bring Mark up on stage here. Yeah, I think we've got this choice one by Mark Levine, who's got one of the most annoying voices in radio and television, but he is pro-Israel to the hilt, so he will be in gainful employment till he retires, which can't come soon enough. But anyway, he's saying Muslim terrorists slaughtering entire Alawite families in Syria. Horrendous. Not a word of criticism from Hamas sympathizers and Israel haters in our country. So again, Levine has to spin this somehow in Israel's favor, which shows you how ruthless and shameless these people are. Okay. Absolutely shameless. But I'll have you know, Mark Levine, in your infinite wisdom, Israel is backing HTS, Al Qaeda, and the quote rebels in Syria. They've been giving them medical care. They've been arming them. They have been supporting them on many levels, probably funding them as well, and using the Air Force, the IDF's vaunted Air Force, as air cover for these terrorists. Okay, Mark, that's been happening for over a decade. But you're not allowed to see that because you're not allowed to see anything negative that Israel does in the region, because then your grift is over, basically. These are the most shameless people. Here he is, Mark Levine, really one of the most high-pitched, annoying voices in media, and a total shameless Zionist carnival barker who is blaming women and children in Gaza for allowing themselves to be used as human shields by Hamas. Okay, that was the extent of his commentary for the last 18 months, blaming the victims, of course, and then portraying Israel as the ultimate victim, always, constantly, 24/7, 365. And again, he's using this pogrom in Syria, which Israel has helped to make real, and he has somehow spun it in favor of Israel, which is amazing. These people are incredible. They're absolutely incredible, but we shouldn't be shocked. We've been watching them for years doing the same thing. And the problem with this is, and I'll say this goes for Tucker and Tulsi Gabbard as well. And this is we'll go to break in a moment, but I won't. Let me see if I can bring this Tulsi clip up on stage in a moment. I mean, we have so many examples of this, but let me see if I can bring this Tulsi Gabbard clip up on the screen. Yeah, here it is. And I'm going to get to the bottom of the problem here. Okay, let's get to the bottom of the problem. We'll get to the core of the issue. And this is why you have to be critical of your so-called heroes. Because they're not part of the solution. They've actually been part of the problem for a very long time. Okay. And this is why I'm very critical of Tulsi Gabbard. Okay. So here she is. This is at her Senate confirmation hearing for DNI. And she says, we'll bring this up on stage. Yes, there it is. She said, I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime. Well, Tulsi, you should have shed tears for the fall of the Assad regime. The Assad, quote, regime had no reason to fall other than the fact that your government was sanctioning it to death and starving the people in that country, okay? The U.S. is in violation of international law by imposing collective punishment in the way they did. The European Union's in violation. Israel's in violation for all of the airstrikes, killing all the Syrians, destroying their infrastructure, killing their soldiers who are fighting against the terrorists, okay? Jordan's in violation of international law. Turkey's in violation of international law for stealing Syrian territory. The United States is illegally occupying Syria. That was also part of the strangulation. That's in violation of international law. And I could go on and on. So all these people are in violation of international law to destroy the Assad regime. And Tulsi saying, I shed no tear for the fall of the Assad regime. Well, the fall of the Assad regime, which you shed no tear for, Tulsi, is the reason why Al-Qaeda and ISIS took over Damascus and are now chopping off people's heads on the Syrian coast. Because people like you and everybody else, because you made a political determination, because you're afraid of being pursued for having visited Syria in whenever it was, 2016 or so, 2017, I can't remember when, with Dennis Kucinich. So your statement is a political one, okay? The problem is it's not reality-based. She said, but today we have Islamist extremist who is now in charge in Syria. Go figure. How did that happen? Who danced? How did that happen? It's because Trump stopped the counteroffensive to wipe out these maniacs, which he just bragged about. We just showed you the video, Tulsi. Who danced on the streets to celebrate 9/11. Again, drop the 9/11 reference, of course, to rile up the Americans, get them kind of on side, referring to Jolani and Al-Qaeda now in control of Damascus. Okay, so that's Tulsi. We'll play this clip as well so you can hear it for yourself. So if there were no sanctions, ladies and gentlemen, I'll explain this in a moment, but here's Tulsi.
Shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
Digital images and digital lies cut out their heart along with their supply. The propaganda leads to dehumanize our fellow humans and silence their cries. say about who we are? This might be the last time. Raise a hand about who we are. What's this say about who we are?
For in the final analysis, we all inhabit this small planet, and we are all mortal.
Lately I've been watching the world gone mad. Brothers and sisters full to take a stand, to hate their fellow man, another man. Divide and conquer is the acronym plan. Distract the people, control the story. Don't believe your lying eyes, you know me. Stay in power no matter what. Playing with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gather your trust, pushing us to turn to good. Corruption and lies,
welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. We had a technical difficulty during the previous segment. We had an audio cut, unfortunately, that lasted for 10 or 15 minutes. So our apologies. Unfortunately, we will not be able to recover any of that, which is very sad and unfortunate. But unfortunately, that's the way it goes. When we are basically, we're on a live stream. So unfortunately, we won't be able to fix that in the edit or anything like that. So, which is a shame because it was a very good, it's a very good segment, and I apologize again to everybody on the live streams for not being able to deliver that. Anyway, we'll try to shift gears and rescue this program. I'm not sure how we're ever going to do that, but we'll try anyway. Bring up on stage one of our colleagues here, Ruckus from Alternate Current Radio. Ruckus, how are you doing?
I'm good, Patrick. There were actually some very savvy audience members out there who were using AI to do lip reading on you, and they got your whole rant regardless. So maybe we can program an AI to interpret it and then emulate your voice. I mean, it is 2025, Patrick. There are ways, but
well,
anyways, I'm doing good.
The smart thing would have been for me to have press record on the audio mixer, but of course, why do that when you have all of these streams running? It's the last thing that you think of is doing the audio.
Luckily, you have a very forgiving audience, so I don't think we lost anybody over this one, Patrick.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It was a very good monologue, and I don't think I could recreate it, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm not sure. Help me out, Ruckus. Here, I'm really at a loss for words. I think this show's a wash. But we'll try to finish it off. If anybody wants to come on stage, they're more than welcome. But go ahead. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I was listening to up until the point where the thing was muted with Tulsi there, but there was one interesting comment that I found myself making out loud to myself, so I thought I would share it with everybody. When you were talking about the fact that the moderate rebels can put on a nice clean suit and change their image, and I'm just like thinking, well, hold on, didn't we see somebody recently on the public stage who refuses to wear a good clean suit because it's just a costume? Oh, that's right, one little mini dictator, green orange army man Zelensky. Remember what the comments were he had to say about suits, and I guess he was right. The suits ultimately do just serve the purpose of being nothing more than a costume in order to persuade somebody that you're one thing when in fact underneath the costume you're entirely the same monster that you used to be. So very good observation from you about the whole Syria thing earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, the best observations came after that Tulsi clip, but unfortunately, again, gone down a memory hole.
We'll all take your word for that.
What I'm gonna try to do then is I'll try to recreate that segment and re-record it, and then somehow release that separately. So yeah, but again, it's just adding more work onto the workflow. Of course, it's easier when you just have everything working live, but sometimes that unfortunately not meant to be. Yeah, this is the problem when you're doing a monologue and you don't have anybody else that you can see on screen. You're not getting any. There's no way to know, and I don't look at chat boxes while I'm on camera. So I'm quite focused, and you get sort of in the zone, as they say, and you're not paying attention to anything technical at all. You're just assuming everything's working. So it's very difficult. Some people are able to manage both of those things. I'm not one of them. I'm not able to multitask when I'm getting in the zone, unfortunately. So we lost, probably, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how long we lost there, but it's pretty, yeah, it's very deflating. But anyway,
it's one of those things that we trade off, Pat, for having this fine video setup, streaming setup, because remember back in the day, it was like we had 3 mixers here at ACR, and one of them was going directly into your ear, and since we've upgraded to having this, fine multi-streaming video sort of setup, that's one of the things that we had to give up to do this. So, again, it's like little trade-offs here and there. And man, I had the same problem on Boiler Room about 2 weeks ago. I came out of a clip at the end. I had let everybody go, And I think Ruckus had mentioned right before the end of the show about who was that was signing U.S. bombs that were going into Gaza. Was that
Probably Nikki Haley, Tom Cotton.
Haley?
someone
Yeah,
like
and
that.
I'd gone and I found the video of it after everybody left the boiler room, and I played it, and then I did commentary on it for a good couple minutes with the mute button on, and then realized, oh, I'm signing out and my red light is on. Great.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, it would, if I just recorded the audio backup, that would have been great. But yeah, but that probably wouldn't have worked either because I had the mixer down, unfortunately. But it's a technical problem. There must be a way around it. So to try to still work on trying to figure that out. But I don't want to bore people with technical details. Help bail me out, guys. Let's talk about what's going on in the world, please. I would really appreciate it.
Well, it's after watching the first part of the show here, Pat, it's I feel a little bit deflated about the whole situation in the Middle East. You kind of mentioned it on the way in. This is bringing back old memories, and it's just like so many steps backward. Seeing what's going on there, and then to see the geopolitically illiterate, infantile takes by some of the ex-celebrities out there is equally sort of just demoralizing, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to even feel demoralized by it because we kind of expected these are what we're seeing unfold today and this week is exactly what we expected to see when Jolani and that crew walked into Syria. So, to now be seeing all this video footage of these atrocities is unfortunately something I think we pretty accurately predicted when the situation changed there in Syria. And, it's just such a sad thing because, I bring this up a lot on the show, but if we go back to what was that, December of 17 or something, when Eastern Aleppo was
16, December 16. Yeah.
So they were finally, given some relief in Eastern Aleppo, and it was like, oh my gosh, we've hit a major benchmark, in this this terrible story here, and maybe things can start to get better. And and then we sort of, everything happened. COVID happened, and Joe Biden steps in, and Syria kind of melts into the background while all the power politics and propaganda were all the rage. And after some geopolitical chess moves, here we are again. And those ghosts of those years are coming back to sort of haunt us, but very very in a very realistic way. The ghosts of war and demise are running rampant in Syria right now. It's disappointing to see, man. I'm just very disappointed in it. Wish I could say I was surprised.
Yeah. I mean, what I was trying to say, but couldn't because of the audio dropped, was that the sort of half-assed measures by all of our media pundits, political people, including Tulsi Gabbard, trying to save their ass or their political career by pretending to be against the Assad regime, as if there was some obligation to want Assad to go. But because of that, and because of not calling out the role of the U.S. government, Israel, NATO, all of these people that ganged up to destroy Syria, that's why we have the ISIS, Al-Qaeda, head choppers in Damascus running the Islamic State, basically. This is why, because everybody didn't want to, because we knew what was going on. We told the truth. We tried to broadcast the truth, but we're not important enough. We don't have a show on Fox News. We're not a former A-list celebrity who managed to colonize Rumble. Okay, we're not influencers of that level, so we're not Joe Rogan. So if, until these people finally get around to saying something about some of this stuff, then all of a sudden it's like, wow, oh my God, it's okay, it's safe to say that now. It's safe to say that. It's not safe for these people to say a whole bunch of other things. But the longer it goes, the world gets worse, not better. And these problems get worse. And it's because they care more about their careers, their sponsorship deals, and getting canceled than they do about stopping actual injustice, stopping actual, holocausts and genocides and things like this, pointing out the obvious hypocrisy of the US government backing these terrorist groups, and then labeling everybody else fighting ISIS as a terrorist. So if you can't say that publicly, then the problem will just persist, and that's exactly what's happened. So that's kind of, in a little bit of a nutshell, what I was saying. And the same people on the Democrat side that are saying that Zelensky can't have elections in Ukraine because there's a war on. So of course there can't be elections in Ukraine because there's a war happening. But these are the same people that were demanding that they have elections in Syria and that Assad step down and leave the country during a war that we were waging on his country. We and 20 other factions, countries, terrorist groups, Gulf states, Israel, and sanctioning them. But he has to have elections and must go. While we're waging war on him, not Russia. While Russia's helping them. So, and then on the right, it's same sort of hypocrisy that, well, I don't shed a tear for Assad. He was an evil dictator and this and that. And, he should have had elections and he should have, freed his people. When your country's at war, you don't have a lot of options. And if he stepped down, most certainly chaos would have filled the void. And he was trying to avoid the very thing that we actually saw happen now from December till now. That's what Assad, the brutal dictator, as they like to call him, which he wasn't. Syria is a very strict, quite authoritarian society in a sense, but they were actually at war on multiple fronts against Israel and everybody else. So because of that, it created a very hard state. It's because of our policy. So I was just trying to illustrate some of those basic points. And also the point that, in the US, Republicans are calling to suspend the First Amendment against students who are protesting against the genocide in Gaza, who are human rights protesters, who are being wrongly characterized as pro-Hamas, and therefore, pro-terrorist, therefore suspension of their First Amendment rights. And so they're so concerned that this is a terrorist-linked problem in America. But you have actual head choppers on FBI wanted lists that you armed, gave intelligence, satellite data to, troop movements, all the same type of support you're giving Zelensky, you gave it to HTS. And you armed them, and you funded them, and our special forces trained them and fought alongside them in East Aleppo and some of these other places. That actually happened. So, but no concern about terrorism when it's actually putting ISIS and Al-Qaeda in charge of a whole freaking country. No concern there. Now, after what, a decade, everyone's, oh my gosh, look at this. This is terrible. Christians are in danger in Syria. We must do something. We must act. It's like Christian virtue signaling is really getting old. It's really getting old. Now the right can't say anything about saving Muslims. Only if there's Christians involved can they speak up. And that's my criticism about how Tucker has been framing this, how Candace Owens has been framing this, is Christians are being slaughtered. Yes, they did mention the other groups eventually. But the only thing that gets Americans, the only thing it's safe to say to virtue signal on the right is if Christians are being targeted. But if you're really a Christian, if you really have you're upholding Christian values, you would want to save Muslim lives, Druze lives, Alawite lives, and Christian lives equally. Shiite, Sunni, whatever. They're all human. So this sectarian mentality that has come into the American heads and in the West, that's being promoted by people like Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk. You can only care about white people or Christians. Everybody else, throw them to the lions, whatever. They probably deserved it. And, Islam is a radical satanic religion, according to all these blowhards on Fox News. So that's where we are in the West, and that's why this situation has been allowed to proliferate. This is why it's come to this. It's because we don't care. We're selective in how we care, because that's political. We do so, we make these statements because they're political. It's political correctness. On the left, the right, every part of the political spectrum has their own PC, prohibited language protocols. And that's the reason why you've got terrorists in charge in Syria. Full stop. It's the reason why Israel has been allowed to basically level cities and kill everybody living there, because it's not politically correct to oppose it. Because you lose something. You might lose your YouTube channel, you might lose your job, you might be put on an anti-Semitic list, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're all very careful in America and in Europe. Oh no, we can't say anything positive about, resisting the IDF in South Lebanon. Who's the resistance? Who's the armed local militias that take up arms to defend their own farms and houses? It's Hezbollah. That's no, they're terrorists. They're terrorists. They haven't done anything in Europe or in America or anything.
Right. So somehow one has to hold in their mind that, okay, Jolani and this group are not terrorists because they put on suits and take pictures next to, officials from other countries who endorse them. But elsewhere, they are terrorists. It's just like, how dumb do they think people are? I mean, I guess maybe people are that dumb because they seem to not be getting it. But right, you put the suit on, you stand next to those guys, not a terrorist all of a sudden, even though you've lopped off a lot of heads and done a lot of torture. And I also find it sickly ironic that the things that they, the propaganda lines that they used against Assad, all of a sudden don't apply to this Jolani guy who's actually committing the sort of atrocities that they tried to pin on Assad back when it wasn't Assad, and it was, well, frankly, people like Jolani. So they've done a full bait and switch swap out of power here, and this one they support, even though it is doing the things they claimed the previous one is doing. I mean, what an absolute mess for people that don't follow geopolitics in the Middle East to try to unwind.
Yeah, it is a mess. It is this between there's online factions that are just, some are paid. You've got the NAFO trolls that are batting for Ukraine and Zelensky. You've got the Zionist Israeli Hezbollah army that's very active online. Then you have the kind of U.S. government backed or U.S. partisan trolls as well, and each of them align or not with these different foreign policy issues. And there's so many lies and so much propaganda, just outright malicious lies that are being circulated on heavy rotation. People have just very funny ideas about what's actually happening that doesn't really correspond to reality. So it is a constant battle, and a big problem is people like Elon Musk who did not earn his following per se. He bought the platform and then he forced his tweets into everybody's news feeds, whether you follow him or not. So he automatically has the most amount of followers. I unfollowed him at least twice and found myself following him again. Like, how is that possible? So anyway, so he's got 200 million followers, not because we want to see or hear or care what Elon says, but because we're forced to. So, and then he translates that as, I am the most in demand pundit on this platform. Like, I'm the most loved, I am the most revered because I bought the platform. So he's the monarch. He's kind of an authoritarian king of sorts. Not very democratic, is it? No. If it was based on the quality of his content, he would be probably banned on his own platform, because he's been community noted more than anybody, and he's pushing blatantly. He got a US into a diplomatic row with a whole country, South Africa, and then blamed it on the blacks being racist against him. In the
Patrick,
end,
did you see people were asking Grok who is the X user who spreads the most amount of disinformation, and the answer was Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. So I mean, but he promulgates so many lies, and he does it almost daily, and it does there's a lot of damage being done as a result of this to people's heads, I think. So getting a false reality, and then they keep looking. You look at the comments, and people are getting emotionally outraged based on lies that people like this are posting. Not just him, there's other people that are mega galactic accounts that do the same, but it's to see people's visceral emotional reactions to fictional events that is quite astonishing when you think about it. You know, you're rallying up crowds on fake information. I mean, and we say, oh my God, look at those old Nuremberg rallies where, Hitler and Mussolini giving it all that to the crowd, and they're lapping it up. This is the same thing. It's just designed to work the crowd. That's it. Doesn't matter what you're saying is true. And quite frankly, there's people in the crowd that don't care if it's true either.
They don't even know if they should care, I think, in a lot of cases. Like, a lot of people that are not critical of the doom scroll. They're not critical of the feed. They're not thinking about who's behind, the keyboard on some of these accounts, and I can see how it would be easy to fall into that, especially if you're sort of I don't know, a bit of a newbie to social media, or maybe just was a, casual user until COVID came along or something like that, or until, Twitter became X, maybe something like that. But it's really easy to see how somebody who's, not prepared to defend themselves from predatory media, to take that, infinite scroll and say, okay, well, these are the big voices. I see that they have 5 million followers or 100,000 followers or whatever, so like there must be a reason for that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of mental gymnastics that maybe don't go through a critical list of striking lines through them and checking next to boxes, and it's just made for a really. And we were all sort of, social media users are sort of programmed for that, because the whole, feedback loop there within the infinite scroll is one that's like, it is exactly that. It's meant to be a feedback loop. So we're already tuned by Facebook and Instagram and reactions, it's all reaction based, right? And we know that they put a lot of psychology into those 5 little comment emojis that they put on Facebook, and they tracked how people interacted with that. Like, that was a serious psychological maneuver and tool that was added to social media back in, I don't know, what was that, 2015 or something like that, 10 years ago. They really started to hone in on the, is it LOL? Is it outrage? Is it, there's like 4 or 5 different emotions. And of course, they've found that the outrage emotion and the love emotion are sort of like the 2 big ones. So, and everybody, we all fed into that in some way, shape, or form. Even if you didn't interact with those buttons, if you were on social media, you've been there while that changed into that sort of place of dopamine hits and outrage hits. So, come to now, and you've got newbies in the X infinite scroll, and unfortunately, it's difficult for them to get spun up on things like Middle Eastern geopolitical maneuvering and propaganda and all that stuff that we're trying to critically analyze over these last 10 years talking about this.
I think the other problem is, I'll get Ruckus if you want to chime in on this as well, but the problem is the policy of the U.S. government defined what the media narratives, the allowable narratives were, and so you couldn't. And it's the same with all of these issues, from Gaza to what's happening in Syria now, what happened in Syria before with Ukraine. You must condemn Russia first. You must condemn Assad first. You must condemn Iran, no matter what. Tucker was even complaining about this line: Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terror. He just discovered this propaganda line this week. How many years ago were we saying that was a complete lie? It was well over a decade ago.
Yeah.
I tried to repeat it as much as possible because it's just simply not true. The #1 sponsor of terror, if you want to rank them on paper, is probably Qatar, Saudi Arabia, 1 and 2, United States probably 3, maybe US #1. I don't know. If you talk about dollar amounts, weapons, over, I don't know, the last 50 years, I would say it's the US, actually. It's the #1 state sponsor of terror on the planet. So, and then I rank all the Gulf states. Then I put Israel in there because they're also, I mean, and Britain, and the French, dirty as anything, the French. So, Boko Haram, that's been exposed as a complete front. I mean, we knew that a long time ago, but that's like, where's Iran on this list of state-sponsored terror? Oh, they're saying, oh, they support Hezbollah. Have Hezbollah done any terrorist attacks in Europe or US, Canada, Australia? Nothing. They have a couple of, like, a synagogue attack in Buenos Aires and a bus attack in Bulgaria that are completely like unsolved mysteries. That if you actually read the reportage, that there's allegations that they might be Israeli false flags. I mean, what's the likelihood of that? Is that possible? Where does that sit on the spectrum of possibilities? Probably a lot higher. And the fact that Fox News and the American right have been talking up these fake talking points about ISIS coming over the Mexican border, about Hezbollah coming over the Mexican border, about Hamas coming over the Mexican border. Judicial Watch, everybody's been pumping this since like 2011, and it's never happened. Never been. So that's like 15 years of those talking points. That makes me suspicious that maybe this is a completely fake narrative. Because, I mean, let's get real, okay? And that's put aside our knowledge of false flags on U.S. soil that involve the FBI and our own DHS and security services and foreign governments active on our soil. And I'm not talking about, non-state actors. I'm talking about state actors who've been busted for running spy rings in the U.S. There's only one country, Israel. It's not Iran, it's Israel. They've been busted multiple times by our own FBI. And they're regarded by U.S. intelligence and law enforcement in previous administrations as one of the #1 threats to American domestic security. The most open investigations against Israeli spying on U.S. soil. So if we have to rank this stuff on a table, the table looks very different than the rhetoric. So I'm glad that Tucker and these people have discovered this in 2025. Better late than never, right, guys? Better late than never.
So it's all based on these definitions and these labels, which is a form of a costume as well, like the suits. What is a terrorist, right? It's whatever the powers that be say they are. So you have like this changing, like one day they're resistance fighters, one day they're assisting us with they're a special group that we trained, and then they're terrorists, and then they're not terrorists. It gets so damn confusing. You can't really blame anybody, but like what we need is an actual working definition of what what terrorism actually is. And when you examine that, you get a list much closer to what you're discussing, Patrick, where it's like, no, wait a minute. The UK, Israel, United States, we're the good guys. No, we're not. We're the ones who are actually sponsoring actual terror events. And then you brought up the false flag thing. A false flag in today's day and age doesn't exist without even the concept of terrorism, right? And it's just it's so baseless on its face. It's so ridiculous. I mean, it has to be so ridiculous and so stupid that if you honestly believe it, no matter who's telling it to you, then you know what? Like the elites think, you did it to yourself. It's your own fault if you're that stupid to believe that Hezbollah or Hamas, of all people, are coming across the border to come kill Christians in the name of some holy jihad, because that's how they defend the genocide in Palestine. Like, it's crazy. And then the other thing is, it's all politicized. It's like, the one that's bugging me is this anti-Semitism law. Like, if Kamala had won the presidential election this time around, if she passed a law, do you not suspect? Do you think that maybe the Republicans would say, "Hold on, we don't necessarily agree with these dirty terrorists out there in the Middle East that we know nothing about, but we don't like what these sneaky scumbag Democrats are doing and against the First Amendment." They would stand up for the First Amendment. They would not have any part to do with this. But since it's their guy doing it, they're all for it. And that shit needs to stop. That's why we're in trouble. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I think the rhinos would, if Harris passed these anti-First Amendment laws that they're pushing now, the rhinos would support it. They would support curtail. The MAGAs would be against it. But because Trump's in power, the MAGAs are silent. So well played, lobby. It's a chess. It's political chess. Let's be honest, guys. It's political chess, and they have played it absolutely beautifully. They could not have done it actually under the Democrats. So they could only have pulled this off under Trump, unfortunately, because the real MAGAs, the 2016 MAGAs, are muzzled, basically. Drowned out by all the new limousine MAGAs and Brett Weinsteins of the world, all of these fire-breathing Zionists that are basically the new influencers. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Rabbi Shmuley Boutish's best buddy. So, I mean, that's Tulsi Gabbard, Shmuley Boutish. So they're all quiet on it. So it's okay, violate the First Amendment. It's okay. Just for this issue, it's okay. We won't do it for anything else. We promise. Just let us violate the First Amendment here. And we promise we won't. It's just for this. It's just anti-Semitism.
Right.
I've brought it up before, I think, but I'll bring it up again because the more this progresses, it gets more like, wow, tell me there was no there. There was a there. Elon Musk, after the results of the election came in, he showed the map, which had, shows the colors, and it was all predominantly red. And his only comment about the tweet was, he says, he was saying, like, science says that red light helps you sleep. That was the tweet from Elon Musk. And I thought, well, there could be a deeper meaning in there because, we turn the country red, everybody's going to go back to sleep and let the deep state roll, the Illuminati, whoever they are, do whatever they're going to do. And that's what I'm witnessing with my own 4 eyes right now. They went to sleep. They're not standing up for the rights or they're not making America great again. They're just like little lapdogs clapping seals on X, and they've all gone back to sleep, just like Elon Musk predicted.
Was I on mute earlier when I had Elon's tweet with Peter Sweden on screen?
No, we heard that.
You heard that part. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's just a typical Elon job there. And so Starlink got banned in South Africa, and Elon's blaming it on racism. He's saying, he tweeted out, I've been banned. Starlink's been banned in South Africa because I'm white. So the level that this guy's playing at is dangerous, and it's insulting to people's intelligence, because that's not why Starlink is banned. More likely it's banned because he started a race row because of his, again, mischaracterizing an issue on his platform. He claimed there was a white genocide happening in South Africa. And even the South African farmers were coming and saying, no, that's not happening. But Elon already ran with it. And the American right and Tommy Robinson are right behind him. And basically then Marco Rubio next thing is saying that we need to sanction South Africa. And South Africa went ballistic. They're, what the hell is going on? And so Rubio didn't back down off his comments. Trump made the similar comments. And now you have a diplomatic row because of something Elon Musk did, pushing fake news on his X account and getting the mob to come with him. And so South Africa said, well, you want to play like that? Okay. We're going to cancel that. We're going to block Starlink and see how you like that. You want to mess around with our trade, which is blatantly what Musk is doing. This guy is literally, when it comes, he might be very smart at rockets and tech startups, but he is a complete idiot when it comes to politics. He's got the brain of like a junior high school student when it comes to politics. He is a, I don't want to use the word, but he's a social subtard. I'll use that term. Subtard. He is a social Reddit subtard. That's how a nuanced and advanced his social and political mind is. It's like that of a teenager. And this, but show me a teenager and make him the richest man in the world and give him the biggest platform in the world, and let's see what happens. Do that. Give that to a 13-year-old. How well is that 13-year-old going to be able to manage that? Is he going to make a lot of mistakes? Is he going to break a lot of eggs? Yeah, he will.
Especially if he's managing 13 baby mamas at the same time.
14.
He said he was going to break a lot of eggs, didn't he?
There's a new child this last week.
Right. And who was this one with? Because like I was still kind of absorbing that last one with the
I think this one was with the one of his wifelets at the CEO of Neuralink.
Ah.
Yeah, she's quite happy with the arrangement. She may or may not have had the baby herself. Might have been done with IVF and surrogates, which quite a few of them, I'm told, are. I don't know what that's all about. I'm not rich enough to be able to live like that, but
where does he find the time? My goodness, it's just boy, his to-do list is vast.
So his sales pitch to the girls at parties, I mean, this is what was written. I don't know who wrote this in an article. They said you approach women at Silicon Valley or these celebrity parties, say, do you want my genes? I can arrange it, my seed or whatever. He's like, kind of like the chat up line. Do you want to have my child? But you don't have to actually have it. We can do it with services, right? High-tech services that only billionaires can afford to do that on a monthly basis.
Yeah. Especially if they're using IVF, which is interesting to me because
surrogates.
IVF and surrogates. So that's like if you're in the IVF category and you're thinking about using a surrogate, like clearly cash is no option. But it's like you think about how many Americans right now, or just people in general around the world, who are trying to use IVF because of the environment that has led to them, whether that's because of jabbies and stabbies or poor diets or low testosterone or whatever. Like a lot of people are having trouble doing this. And I see a lot of, there's a sort of a not so subtle propaganda wave that happens in like Hollywood realms right now and streaming shows, and even Donald Trump himself and others making, IVF like a big talking point. You know what I mean? It almost feels like there's sort of this groundswell push towards like normalizing IVF because, as we've discussed before many times, like in the zoom out view of what technocracy is going to look like, that's kind of their vision. Like if you look at Jamie, what's his face, who worked over at the he's a representative for the Atlantic Council, I believe. He was saying, as recently as a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, that in 20 years people will be basically having test tube babies, IVF babies, clone babies, designer babies, anything but a traditionally consummation that leads to conception sort of paradigm. Like that's going to go away. So I don't know. It kind of feels like there's sort of this like Epsteinian drive. Sorry, Elon, but that's the first person I can relate it to. Someone that wants to just, seed the world with their DNA. I mean, I could do you.
Hitler wanted to do. They made a movie about it called "The Boys from Brazil."
Sure.
With Gregory Peck. Yeah,
All right, I remember that. Or Genghis Khan, perhaps. The ladies love.
At least Genghis did it the old-fashioned way. Do you know what I mean? Just basically rape, pillage, and plundered villages, and kind of traditionally. Genghis Khan's more conservative. But I guess it's conservative to have all the baby mamas and 22 kids and 8 different mothers, and that's very conservative.
Isn't that another huge nudge of the Overton window, especially for contemporary conservatives, if you will, the MAGA contingent, like putting someone like him on a political pedestal, a technological pedestal, an intellectual pedestal. It's like all of a sudden this guy's so high up on a pedestal, you've got politicians and users on social media and other conservatives that are like, yeah, that's all right, we'll allow this. They're like, we'll allow this, because he's Elon, so we'll allow it. But it's like, would you allow it if it was your son? How would you feel if you were doing that? Like, if you really, like, if you sat down with your pastor or something like that, and you outlined your plan to do the same thing and behave the same way, and not really be a partner to any of these women, and not, I don't know, maybe not be a good parent to the dozens of kids that are going to come through it. Like, is that really the conservative morals, or is this guy getting a waiver? Are you giving, like, you really got to ask yourself, are we giving this guy a waiver here because of who he is and how high his pedestal is and the size of his bank account, or do we really agree with this behavior?
No, because of the size of his bank account. There's nothing else. There's nothing. If he was just a millionaire, it'd be like, people be cracking jokes about him left, right, and center. I mean, they are already, but it wouldn't be like, why would he listen to this dweeb? Just this kind of weird, nerdy millionaire. No, but because he's super wealthy and he's bought his seat at the political table. Because let's face it, folks, democracy is for sale. Whether it's on the left or the right in America, democracy is for sale in the United States of America. But if my team wins, I will cheer for that. I don't mind the super PAC, Citizen United all the way. Elon, way, Doge. Because my team won. But if the left does it, whoa. Zuckerbucks. Remember the 2020 election? They bought the election.
A lot of money.
They bought the election. Zuckerbucks spent more than Elon buying the election. Yeah. 340 million.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. Can you imagine that? Like, let's just say we're not us and we're 3 guys sitting around a corporate board. You're the CEO, Patrick. Ruckus, you're the COO, and I don't know, you guys' buddy, whatever. And Patrick says, I have a strong feeling about this election, guys. Let's cut a check for $300 million. I mean, I can't even conceive of that conversation. Like, for me, I don't care what election it was. I don't care if I'm Google, if I'm Facebook, if I'm freaking Steve Bannon or whoever, like, let's cut a check for $300 million to this partisan team here. Like, to me, I just can't understand how anyone can do that outside of, just strictly the logistics of the art of the deal, knowing you're going to get XYZ back for Y amount of cash or something like that, And then there's also remember when Trump got elected the first time, we saw Google openly having a corporate wide meeting and telling their employees, we will never allow this to happen again. Like, these kind of machinations, like, there's, what I mean? There's that sort of political ideology one, but then it's just like, wait, how does this make sense? We're just going to cut hundreds of millions. Yeah, we're a billions-dollar company. We got hundreds of millions. We can wipe our nose with hundreds of millions of dollars, but hard to imagine outside of that tier, right? Like, that tier is a tier that normal people like us can't really imagine the deals that are going on. But you bring it down a tier, to a Fortune 500 company or something like that. And what's that like? How does that meeting go when you're sitting around the board table and the CEO or someone goes, hey, let's cut a $300 million check to, this politician? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I can't afford it, maybe a couple thousand. We'll have to build the company up a little bit. Next 3 elections from now, we'll be able to cut them like a $10 million check. That's going to get us a meeting. It's going to get us a half hour if we're lucky.
And then we can get this part of town rezoned, and all of a sudden we can get federal money into our business. So it's like, that's kind of how it snowballs. But like, and I get that, but at the highest levels of like weird InQtel and CIA and government associated social media companies, it's like, how many deals are you guys working here?
Like Palantir?
Perfect example.
Well,
How much money do I have to donate to get a sit-down interview next to the president with Fox News's, oh God, who did the interview? What was that? The football guy. Shoot.
Oh,
what's his name?
Football guy. What football player?
He throws the football in his show. The Fox News host. He interviewed the president and Donald Trump together.
Oh, Hannity.
Sean Hannity. That was like the first time I'm like, I've never seen anything like that before. Like you talked about Mark Zuckerberg, or you look at someone like Bill Gates and the amount of money they've contributed to previous. None of their contributions got them a sit-down interview next to the president with any mainstream media. It's crazy.
The bar now, it's been set. How much to get that? How much to get to turn the White House into a co-workspace? It's minimum threshold $250 million. That's the minimum. How much to have your people have a frequent flyer White House pass in and out whenever they need it? That's $250 million, $250 million. And so that's what the Israeli lobby has, that frequent flyer all access pass, backstage, VIP, the gold ticket, whatever. Do you think that price is going to stay at $250 million next election? No. It's going to be higher.
It'll be in Bitcoin next time, Patrick.
It'll be half a billion, I think, by the next election. By 2 or 3 election cycles, that gold ticket, that Willy Wonka special job is going to be $1 billion. That's the buy-in cost. You want the White House? You want to run it with us? It's $1 billion to get in. That's the entry cost. So they've set a precedent. And this has been building up for years, by the way. And funny enough, we're on the Sunday screening today. We have a film called, I'll bring it on screen, which is just about this exact issue. And the name of that film is called American Oligarchy. I'll try to bring that up on stage if I can. And it basically is about this buildup that's happened from Citizens United opening up these super PACs to unlimited funding to where we are now, which is like unprecedented levels of money in U.S. politics here. I'll bring that up on screen. There it is. American Oligarchs, the Cost of American Democracy. That's our Sunday screening. That's at 21st Century Wire right now, folks. So check that out. It's kind of an interesting film. It's definitely got some good information in it and talks about the bank and stuff like that. There's a little bit of Democratic talking points in there in terms of like, climate denial, that kind of thing. But if you overlook some of the basic stuff, you can see there's definitely a trend going on there. So, yeah, that's somewhat interesting. There's other better films, actually. We're going to try to find some other ones as well on those topics. But as an example, yeah.
I haven't actually seen that one yet because it came out in 2020. My mind was a little bit consumed with other things in 2020, so I'm looking forward to checking that one out.
Yeah, no, that was definitely in 2020. And I'll bring something else up on screen actually while we're at it. That's of interest. Let me try to identify this particular item here. But yeah. Let me see if I can get this right. Okay, it's a couple things, but let's just start here. because I think we need to have this conversation because they're going to have this conversation a bit more. Now, I was talking about this while the audio dropped on the first segment, but we'll bring this up on stage. Have you guys seen this?
I did see this.
You saw that. So that's our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And I saw him talking on screen, and I thought, when the audio's off on X, you just see the video rolling, and I thought maybe he's talking about, Ash Wednesday or, something Catholic. So I thought, wow, maybe this is interesting. I thought, no, he's talking policy. I'm like, what's he doing with the cross on his head? I know it's Ash Wednesday, duh. But like, why? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for your close up video, and like a lot of people when they do that, it's not so dark. Like, is that grease paint? Like, I mean,
no. When we go to church, I remember going to Ash Wednesday as a kid, and then the priest puts the thumb on there, and there's just this kind of like rubbed out mark on your forehead. You can't really distinguish what it is. It's just like it's almost like you've been playing in the dirt or something, and you got something on your head, and you probably need to wash that off. Like, it doesn't look very clear. So Rubio's gone out of his way to kind of really make this statement, and then as a U.S. official, and I'm so against this because America has multi-denominations in it, so it's almost, you're really crossing the line of church and state here. You really are. And so Marco Rubio's virtue signaling, and again, this is acceptable right-wing virtue signaling now, to say that you're a Christian, and there is a kind of resurgence of Catholicism because some famous people are converting to Catholicism, and fine, I'm aware of this, okay? But there's also passages like in Matthew and so forth that specifically state, don't be outward in your, proselytizing about your prayers. Do it in private, be humble in the face of God, and let people judge you by your actions, not your outward, symbols and signals. And this to me is a kind of a violation of those passages in the Bible. They're not saying, go on national TV and show them you're a Christian. It's kind of like crusade mentality. You know what I mean? I don't like the way this is going. So, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, I full disclosure, I was born and raised baptized Catholic. I don't go to church every Sunday, but I do attend Mass at different times for different events. I wouldn't say that I am a pious Catholic. I try my best to adhere to best principles, practices, and so forth. But, so I'm not your model Catholic Christian. I'm not. So I'm not holier than thou, and I'm not pious by most people's standards. So that's where I am at, and I have a problem with this on so many different levels, mainly politically. So what do you guys think?
I don't know what his intention is, but the ultimate result is the same. It looks clownish. It looks theatrical, and it's not a good look. And he should know that, or somebody around him, somebody on his team should have been like, "Hey, maybe we should tone this thing down." However it happened, but I mean, it ultimately just looks like he went a little. It almost looks like makeup. He looks like he went in the studio and he was like, "Oh crap! Here, can you make it?" I mean, it looks totally done up. It looks fake to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, I've seen plenty of people do the Ash Wednesday thing, and like you said, Patrick, I'm used to it actually looking like some ash on one's forehead, maybe with a shape of a symbol. Probably not after a couple hours of since it was put on. But this, to me, speaking as a fan of black metal music, and I'm familiar with what it looks like when people have grease paint on their face. I grew up listening to Kiss. That looks like grease paint to me. That is not ash, and that is definitely a political statement that he's making. So to me, it's just it's clown makeup on a clown, for quite frankly.
So I'm gonna really like this is gonna go south right now, in a big way, guys. So imagine he's doing this on national TV with that symbol there, and then imagine if he's talking about bombing Palestinians or threatening Palestinians. I mean, that would be quite beyond the pale, wouldn't it? Like that would be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
That
mean,
would, yeah.
you're already representing the country at one of the highest political levels. How that happened, I'm still a little bit bewildered by, but it is what it is. So yeah, to go out there with, you know, I mean, to me, Pat, it's a big statement, and I am a political Zionist and a Christian Zionist or a Catholic Zionist, or however he might frame it. Like that's what I'm seeing. And if he's out there, and we know that from his words and his actions already, you don't need to, paint your face to drive the point home. But yeah, to your question, like that would not be a good look.
And now if he was looking like this, saying we need peace on earth, we need to stop killing all the people in Gaza and in the Ukraine and the whole world, we need to stop all wars. Now, if he's coming forward with that kind of universal message, unqualified world peace, unconditional world peace, I could kind of buy it at that point. I would accept it, and I would probably say that's a brave gesture. That's a brave gesture. And if you feel that strongly about your faith, that you're willing to paint a cross on your forehead and call for world peace as Secretary of State, I would say that's a pretty brave thing to do. And I'd probably applaud you for it, even if I wasn't a Christian. But that's not what he did. Let's take a look at what he actually said here. And pretty shocking to say the least. This is Marco Rubio.
Marco Rubio is with us. Mr. Secretary, good to have you. Thank you for being with us.
People don't realize the president meets with these people. He hears their stories. He's outraged, and rightfully so. He's tired of watching these videos every weekend where hostages that are emaciated are released and bodies are turned over. And sometimes it's the wrong bodies, and this 5 here and 3 there, and these games that are being played. And he's lost his patience with it. He's been very clear about this from the beginning. He's created space and time for this to be solved. And now it's time for seeing it come to an end. It's enough of this already. These people have been in captivity now for over 1.5 years. These are monsters. It needs to stop. And I wish there were more international pressure along the same lines here. But I'm glad he's putting those statements out. I think he doesn't say these things and not mean it, as folks are finding out around the world. If he says he's going to do something, he'll do it. He'll do it. And so they better take that seriously.
Marco Rubio.
That's Sean Hannity, guys. Basically saying if they don't hand the hostages over, Trump's going to bomb Gaza into Kingdom Come. So that's what Rubio is talking about there. He's no mention of the 7,000 or 8,000 Palestinian hostages kept in Israeli gulags that are actually being emaciated, starved, tortured, killed, having limbs amputated, and raped. They don't exist. So again,
he said, remember,
it's the double standard of Christianity, that this idea that only our side matters in this political conversation. So, and him doing this together with this is so wrong. And it's not. I can show you worse. By the way, I could show you worse. He wasn't the only one. There was Laura Ingraham and so many of the other people were doing the same. Look, guys, they have mass at 5 or 6 p.m. on Ash Wednesday. You can go to a late mass and then don't do any media segments at night. Have dinner with your family, pray, reflect on Lent and get prepared for Easter. You don't have to go on TV. You could leave the cross on. I do all your media spots before mass. I mean, that's what if I had this problem with my parents, they said, but I have a school play afterwards on Wednesday night. They might say, well, maybe you should go early in the morning and then maybe wash it off after lunch and don't feel bad. There's ways around it. But this guy is...
If this was done in the makeup room or in his office or in a green room instead of in, a wholly appropriate setting, that's pretty pathetic. And that's exactly what I'm guessing this was. That was put on in a green room at Fox, or if he's broadcasting remotely from somewhere, that's where that was put on. I would be willing to place a bet.
Oh my God. I feel like I shouldn't subject you guys to this, but I shouldn't subject our audience to this. But the problem, guys, is the audience has already seen this, what I'm about to show you. Okay, it's so bad. It's so bad. Along the same theme of the born again proselytization of the media audiences for full political effect, I will introduce to you none other than the most respected political pundit on the internet, Russell Brand. Let's take a look at Russell Brand. What was Russell Brand doing on Ash Wednesday? Again, this is painful. This is going to hurt, especially Catholics. You're not going to like this. You're not going to like what this man is doing to your religion. The clowning, the levels of clowning here are something else. This is on another level. It almost makes Rubio look completely plausible and even humble in comparison. That's how bad this exhibitionism is. Here's Russell Brand, folks.
Here is something that the political establishment and propaganda media don't want you to know.
War! What is it good for? Controlling the population. Hello there, you awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me. We've talked so much about the Ukraine war. You wonder what you can say that's novel and interesting. Isn't it an example of mass media control? Is it an example of how, as Julian Assange says, the function of government is to get your money and get it into private hands as quickly and as slickly as possible? Certainly, Brett Weinstein believes that the Ukraine war inherited the mantle and lens of COVID. It was a way of indicating what the legacy media wanted us to believe and therefore what the establishment agenda was. Let's have a look at the Ukraine from that perspective. With all due sympathy to Ukrainian people and their suffering, we have to recognize.
Guys, I want my alternative media back.
We deserve better alternative media. Is there an alternative to this alternative? Because I can't get into that.
Look at this clown. This is what is this? There's nothing nice we can say about this guy.
He looks like, I don't know, like the male version of a wannabe trad wife or something. Like he's got the poltergeist
Debbie Gibson. He's got the Debbie Gibson hat on. he's got the cross on. He's doing LARPing Jesus with the long hair, and then he's got the kind of new age guru loose knit sweater, low hanging V-neck, and then a big bling, Christian bling around the neck. And he's all over your Rumble feed. Okay. This guy's too much. And he was joking about having a cross on his head. I don't want to play any more of the segment because it's too painful, but kind of making a mockery of Christianity in his clownish way. And it's not serious. And then he is basically recurating like alternative media content and then doing it in his vapid style. And then spitting it out, and then basically we need to be following him and Brett Weinstein and all these new, and what's he comparing COVID to Ukraine? He basically said that Ukraine is the new mass formation. Were you around in 2022, Russell?
Yeah, new.
Were you around when everyone was changing their profile pictures in 2022? That was 3 years ago. So it's the new mass. No, it's a mass formation now because the new right is made this the big issue. We need to stop the war now. You know, we need to be friends with Russia. Friends with Russia. So it's safe to say these things because Russell has made it safe for us. We can now, I feel like I can have free speech finally after all these years, you guys. I really feel like I've been shackled. I just haven't been able to express myself. And Russell has liberated me, and Joe Rogan has liberated me and allowed me to express my political and geopolitical viewpoints in openly without fear of being canceled or persecuted or debanked or, you know, censored by the algorithm. I can't tell you what this liberation feels like. It's just so empowering. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Is he
And Brett
Catholic?
Weinstein as well. Brett Weinstein has freed me from my intellectual prison. You know, it's just, it's so empowering.
Are you,
Just-
Ruckus, were you asking about Russell when you said, is he
Yeah.
Catholic? Yeah,
Yeah, because I knew he had converted to quote unquote Christianity, but when I saw him get baptized in a river, it reminded me, oh, he's going the Baptist route, like a, you know, a different kind of Christianity. But apparently, with the ashes there, I had no clue. I really didn't.
this Catholicism. Yeah, so he's supposedly a trad Catholic.
Yeah.
And he baptized in his Y fronts, you know, is wearing the white underwear,
Linens.
not the best look. But anyway, so the tattoos, he's got the cross, he's got it's the whole package. You know, this is the new look.
This is the like if you have the PR team and the, you know, supporting staff, you know, that is required to create this, even if that's just, you know, a couple assistants or whatever, but I'm guessing it's probably a much larger team to include a PR person. You know, I think that the uniform, you know, the sort of newly forming uniform around sort of conservative circles, mainstream circles, this is it. This, you know, this is a complete version of it right here. And, you know, there's variations on it. Obviously, Marco Rubio is not going to show up in the Debbie Gibson hat and the linens, but, you know, you can see the similarity here, and you can kind of see, like, I think kind of what's happening here, maybe as just a facet of what's happening here, like a longer term effect, more subversive effect, is we keep seeing all these things get sucked into the identity politics, right? And, you know, religion arguably has been in that for a long time now, but now that we've got cool new conservatives that are willing to have 14 baby mamas that they do via, you know, IVF and surrogates, or, you know, this kind of stuff. It's like, I feel like there's a repopularization, a rebranding of actual religion, you know, happening. And this all kind of leads into that. And you can see the opposite with like, let's call that a Republican sort of tenet, you know, ever changing Republican tenet. But on the Democrat side, like, their tenet on this also very much radicalized into almost a militant atheistic sort of front. And what this does for me when I'm backing out and just kind of looking at how people on the two identity politics are going to frame what we're seeing here between Rubio and this guy, it's like what they will see is the blinders will either go up, or, you know what I mean, the outrage will go up, and the blinders and middle fingers will all go up if you're on that left leaning or extreme left political identity politic. And on the right, you have now a new window of acceptance for what you might think someone who's, you know, a Catholic looks like and how they would portray themselves. You know what I mean? It's adding to the polarization. It's adding very, like, just visually oriented things that will either attract you or deflect you, you know, politically. So it's like we're getting into a set of media aesthetics here where, again, the polarization is just going to be so bad that people of, you know, one mindset will not even listen to, or will immediately reject or come up with, you know, opposing talking points based on what someone is presenting themselves on as looking, and then on the other side they will immediately gravitate to it because it's the cool new conservative thing. And you know what, maybe this is so cool. Look at these Viking guys and looking guys in their underwear. They look like techno Viking. They probably used to party like I did. Maybe I should become a new school MAGA Catholic convert and I can be cool like these people. You know what I mean? Like there's something happening here at like a cultural engineering level, I think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is all just organic, but it kind of doesn't feel like it.
Yes, yeah, they're sporting the Celtic tattoos. Is definitely the Viking look, and then obviously, if you're if you're uncomfortable with cold water, you should wear a wetsuit when you get baptized. Of course, this is just for safety precautions. But really, the one here that I admire most, of course, is the POV Garfield, the cat, looking on, probably thinking, "What on earth are these guys like? Where did they come from? Who is this guy in the white Y-fronts? Oh, that's Russell Brand. He's a big influencer." So obviously it'd be impressive. Any cat would be impressed, wouldn't they? Just sit there and watch that.
I thought it was the Shiba Inu Doge dog when I saw the animal.
The Shiba Inu, yeah, that would be pretty cool as well. The Shiba Inus. I feel bad for that breed of dog. Actually, it's been really defamed by NATO. Between Elon and NATO, they've really just it's a beautiful dog, but it's suffered a lot of abuse. Being NAFO's mascot, that alone, no breed of dog should have to go through that. That's just
cruel and unusual.
It's just we should call the was it the RSPCA?
Yeah.
The RSPCA.
SSPCA.
Yeah, the SPCA. Yeah. PETA, perhaps. Where's Pam Anderson when we need her?
Yeah. Adam Kinzinger needs to be reported to PETA for cruelty to the Shiba Inu dog class. Adam Kinzinger and Matthew Van Dyke, these two NAFO fellows, senior fellows, coordinators of the biggest troll army on the internet, which has been defunded, I heard, because I think they received USAID funding that helped to fund that troll army that attacked Americans and people who had dissenting opinions on Ukraine, who didn't like Zelensky. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, Russell is he's the new role model for all things pious, and if you want to be redeemed, he's your guy. It's redemption for him, certainly, from his a life of debauchery, which he talks about a lot. I was disturbed.
Let's take our moral cues from P. Diddy's buddy. Okay, sounds. Let's not all forget he's in there. Plenty of P. Diddy time hanging out with him. I'm not casting any accusations, just saying there's an association.
Why would you?
Might want to consider.
What's funny is P. Diddy didn't make any Hollywood films except one, Get Him to the Greek. And right. It was with Russell Brand.
Yep.
And they were best buddies. Did everything together. I mean, everything together. So there was a very tight relationship at the peak freak off time. So seeing that P. Diddy is on ice right now, sharing a cell with Sam Bankman-Fried, awaiting the trial of the century. Russell, we want to know the details. We really do. Like, where were the parties? What happened? What you guys get up to?
How many pallets of lube can be on your private jet before you can't take off? I don't know.
Baby,
Pam Bondi is on it, guys. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, release the files. Yeah, Anna Paulina Luna's on it. She's just put a Dropbox link up saying, if anything drops, it's going to be on this link. Everybody, we're going to release the files. Yay! You guys excited? You guys excited? Everything 9/11, JFK, RFK. She's going to do it. She's delivering it all. It's going to be like
Area 51.
Everything.
Yeah. Full disclosure, guys. Be
No
excited.
redactions, nothing redacted.
Yeah, no, minor redactions, just victims.
I'm so glad that Trump put her in charge because I just feel like the whole thing is in safe hands now and nothing will ever come out, and we won't be bothered by any of the pesky details of most famous and consequential president being shot in cold blood. We don't really want to know the details of that. Let's be honest, you guys. It's better that they put Anna Paulina Meyerhofer Luna in charge of that, and I'm sure Pam Bondi's going to get to the bottom of it. I mean, yeah. Just
She
make sure
probably
you
won't
read.
get the info she requests, and some people will have to be fired, and then we'll have something else to think about, and we'll forget about the fact that not only are there all these like low-hanging old conspiracies to titillate all of us out here in internet land, but just never mind all of the insane atrocities that have happened in this country directly here by our government to us in the last 8 years or so. Never mind all that. We don't need to adjudicate any of that stuff, all the treasonous activity, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, talk to me when we get to that point.
But if we do find anything, they're going to give a binder to Libs of TikTok,
Yeah.
DC Drano, and Mike Cernovich, and just so you guys know that it's all in safe hands. Because we're all about transparency, and we're with the people and bringing the people's influencers.
Yeah.
And they're going to take care of it. It's all good. It's all under control. There'll be a nice photo op outside the White House. It's all good. It's all good.
They should cut some extra binders next time for Russell Brand. He should get a binder too, definitely.
Yeah.
It's all hearsay. I don't care who has the binder. None of it is true until one of these guys shows up and talks about it on either Sean Ryan's program or the Rogan Experience.
Well, let's give Sean Ryan a binder too. Why not? I mean, he's doing a fantastic job of delivering the truth to his audience. There's definitely no CIA talking points being laundered through his high-end podcast, are there?
Oh, definitely. Sean gets his binder. It'd be like,
Mario can talk about this on his new show on X, 69 Minutes. I forgot about that.
Which he ripped off of some other show on X. I mean, that's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, it's bad kitsch, basically. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. I mean, it's just insane. But yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
God, this is just so stupid. Yeah, 9/11. Yeah, we're gonna give you all the information on that. Don't worry.
I mean, it's pretty. I think that like our audience and more people are starting to get it. And to to give some credit to people like Candace and others. It's in the mommy blogger sphere. It's in the PTA sphere now. A lot of these talking points, especially about Israel, are now in those spheres, whether people like it or not. That has gone a little bit wider. That has been one of the side effects of this massive shift in Overton window that we keep seeing. So there are new people coming to try to understand the Israel question, the Mossad question, how those fit into historical events that may have shaped society or may have shaped their worldview in the past that they're re-examining. There is a lot of this going on right now. And it may be at a slower level, than some of us that have been doing this for a decade or more or their whole lives would be happy with. But there's definitely probably the largest contingent of mainstream media or just internet media consumers right now who are starting to realize that you can't have a full 9/11 disclosure and you can't have a full JFK disclosure. And we could probably go down the list of, 14, 15, 50 other things you couldn't have full disclosure on without somehow Mossad or Israel or a combination of various intelligence agencies attached to a number of countries and or military elements and or political elements and or banking interests and financial interests. Like, people are starting to realize, like, when when we've tried to describe this thing over the years, you know, it started as Illuminati and then it became deep state. And then, you know, you've got all these little fractions of people saying, oh, it's Israel, or, oh, it's CIA, you know, and they get way down in there. But I think in like the overall picture right now, people are starting to get what these nebulous terms like deep state and Illuminati can actually and are actually composed of. You know, we may not have all the names and all the things, but I think the concept, the people are in larger numbers now starting to understand that they will never get unredacted documents on that until those things are like something that are just historical fact and not something that's buried in propaganda. And that's probably the biggest hurdle that we have right now. But I think more people are getting it, you know, they're like, yeah, of course, you know, and 5 years ago, this wouldn't have been the case. And now that's a larger number of people. So, you know, maybe it's neither here nor there. I kind of feel like part of that is planned and part of that is important to the politicization of everything and the polarization of everything. But part of it also feels like a runaway information train.
Yeah, it's inevitable. A lot of it's just inevitable. But, you know, we have to, you know, thank our, you know, patron saint of the independent media, of course. There he is, Russell Brand. Because without Russell, we wouldn't know any of this stuff, you guys. Let's be honest. It was Russell that exposed it all. It was Russell who exposed 9/11 first. He was first with Ukraine, and he was first with COVID and the vaccines. It was Russell. I mean, yeah, he was a year and a half late, but you know, he got there in the end, and we should all be cheering for him because he eventually got there. You see, and you know, we need role models like this, right?
The only thing he's exposing right here is his tidy whities, and it's disturbing me.
We have to be thankful for him and all of the people at Rescue the Republic for rescuing the Republican Party. Well done, guys.
I'm sorry, but the man bun is the worst part of that picture.
Well, at least he wasn't wearing an Alice band, okay? So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. I mean, do we really want to get into that argument, Ruckus? Do we really? Should I bring Theo Vaughn up and we'll talk about hairstyles? Do you really want to go there?
Some people like their man buns. I get you. But you know, if I was running for office, I would definitely make that my platform. I would get everybody divided over man buns, and then we can control the people that way.
Do you guys remember the early days of the internet when like these novelty websites were up with like specific things on them or subjects?
Oh,
yeah. Niche. One of them, one of the greatest websites ever was called Mullet Hell.
I remember that one.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Wow. I've never that is imprinted on my brain.
Me too. I committed time theft at work to look at that webpage. I just sat there and laughed at that. And the funny thing is now, like the mullet is, I can't say it's back. Yeah. Like, and it's not just back because men are wearing it. It's back because men are wearing it and women are attracted to it. And that, my friends, is the craziest part.
Palmer Luckey, who's like tech bro turned defense mogul, he rocks a mullet and a Hawaiian shirt, totally like shamelessly. So,
like almost a rat tail mullet too. Remember the rat tail? Like he's got a combo like mullet that goes into like a diamond sort of like rat tail shape. I mean, it's bold.
No one saw that coming. That resurgence, right? That even beats. Remember when disco came back in the was it the early 90s? No, it was early 90s. Yeah, disco. No one saw that. I mean, that was difficult and surprising, but the mullet, who would have thought?
I'm still blown away by it.
It was that was soccer players, soccer rockers, and in America, football, soccer. But that was a requirement. You couldn't play men's soccer in America with that. If you didn't have a mullet, there were limits to how far your career could go. Let's face it.
Yeah, and
You
we're
know?
talking what, like 80s? This is pretty much an 80s thing when it was the biggest,
Yeah,
70s, 80s.
that was like you knew when you see a guy who is like between 5'6" and 5'11" with a mullet, you knew he played soccer. You just knew it during that period because nobody else had mullets. Pretty much, Beavis, Butthead, and the men's soccer team. That was it. That was pretty much it. I mean, even the guys who were bikers had moved on by that point.
Right.
They'd long moved on. But mullet hell.
Interestingly enough, speaking of soccer, did you gentlemen catch the most recent esteemed guest to the White House in one of these pomp and circumstance events that we had recently? It was during the cryptocurrency, the first ever crypto summit that the White House hosted. Before all that, they hosted the head of FIFA because we're hosting the World Cup. Is that this year, next year? But we're hosting the World Cup. It's going to be big. It's a pretty big deal. It's next year?
I think
or this
so.
year?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I guess that Trump arranged all of this under his first administration, and then apparently it was looking like he wasn't going to be president when the event took place because he was thinking he was going to be president 2 terms in a row. But since he skipped his term, everybody's making a big deal about how that not only did Donald Trump get the FIFA World Cup to come here to America, he's also going to be the sitting president. So the guy, I forget the guy's name who's head of FIFA, presented the FIFA trophy, and it's this giant, it looks like a gold disc, it looks like a coin, and it's got a key, and you unlock it with the key, and then it turns into this like 3D statue. It's crazy, but it was a lot of pomp and circumstances, all golden, and it fit in with this whole golden era thing, and they were going crazy. They talked more about that than they did cryptocurrency during the crypto summit. It was funny.
Were there people with mullets that showed up, or?
No, but there's these billionaires. They don't dress the way that they told us they were going to dress, like in the comic books or the movies, do they? There was a guy who's the head of Chainlink, and Chainlink is one of these huge cryptocurrency projects. He was wearing a suit and tie during the crypto summit. I forget the guy's name, Alex something, if I'm not mistaken. But when he's usually dressed on camera, wherever he goes to an event, he looks like Bob Vila from This Old House. These billionaires dress very bizarrely. They don't dress like in the suits and the tuxedos in real life. It's pretty weird.
Yeah. Well, speaking of crypto bros, I thought you were talking about when you said there was a crypto summit, there would be like Javier Milei, Elon's buddy, basically, that he was there or something like that. Like that would be one of those guys. Let me see if I can bring Milei up. But he the chainsaw guy, basically from Argentina, because he got caught in a crypto scam recently. He tried to do a meme coin while he was president and did a massive rug pull for 100 million. Yeah, Javier Milei. Nice guy,
Haktua model, using the Haktua financial model.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Here he is. We'll bring him up on stage. This is the guy there, that guy. Yeah. So imagine you're president and your thing you're famous for is being financially prudent and responsible, right? And you run a meme coin while you're president. You do a rug pull, everybody loses their money, and then you go and you accuse people of being stupid for investing in it and say that just because you put it out on your Twitter account, it wasn't my official president account, I put it out on my personal account, which also has 4 million followers. So it's not my problem, he said. Me no problemo. Me no problemo, tu problemo. No me problemo. So here he is. So after that's a national scandal. He's investigated for fraud now. And what do you do at that point? Do you think, what should I do when I'm under investigation for fraud? I've just done a rug pull with a meme coin as president of Argentina. What should I do? Let me think. I know. Let me go to CPAC. Yeah, I'll go to CPAC. I'll get on stage with Elon, and I'm going to get the chainsaw out, and we're going to be so cool. Yeah, I'm a scam artist, but yeah, I abuse my position as president, but it's all good. It's MAGA. I'm with Elon. This is CPAC. Let's go. Let's freaking go, guys. I mean, this is so, yeah, totally credible. This is the new right, guys.
I mean, I gotta point out, why is Milei's chainsaw so inferior to Elon's chainsaw? I mean, have you looked at both of these? Put me
As a
on.
matter of fact, I have. We will compare chainsaws because the comparison is striking. We'll bring on the Elon had. Are you saying that Elon's chainsaw was
Far
bigger,
grander, far grander. I mean,
far
look at that
much
thing.
more impressive?
It's longer. It's got spikes. It's got gold plating and like candy apple red paint on it.
Plus the
And
bling.
it was gifted to Elon from Malay, but now we
Right.
know how Malay can afford it, apparently.
That's what you got. You're picking up what I'm putting down, Ruckus. So Malay pulled the rug out in a crypto scam, and he's able to afford a much nicer chainsaw for Elon.
Okay, so something like this chainsaw here. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
So Milei bought him that chainsaw as a gift because they're such good buddies. They're such good buddies, and this raises an interesting question: if they're best buddies, and Milei's running a mem coin, and there's $100 million rug pull, what are the odds that Elon Musk was involved in that mem coin launch and had put money in it and pulled the rug? Is there a possibility? What do you think? Small possibility, medium possibility, big possibility? What do you guys think? What would you bet on?
I'd go medium. I'm gonna ride the fence and go medium on that one. Highly likely.
50-50.
Yeah, very plausible. Totally plausible. 100% plausible.
100% plausible. And what do you think if he's been pumping and boosting Milei nonstop for the last almost a year, and then the mem coin gets launched, and then Elon doesn't say anything about the mem coin, totally silent, and Milei gets busted, and Elon's silent. What are the odds? To me, the odds start going up a little bit. I'm suspicious. Let's just say I have questions at that point.
I would suggest that Elon stands to benefit if there's no hardcore regulation coming against social media being used to pump and dump these things. So I think that it's in his best interest to keep it all on the hush hush. That's my personal. I don't think he was necessarily involved with this. I think he might be in general. Maybe a bunch of these big groups. With the Malay one, it turns out a lot of people have been doing the investigation into this, and it looks like the same people are involved all the time with these things. So it looks like there's like a ring going on, and there might be a ringleader. And again, maybe this group of people got together and did put pressure or bribed social media companies and regulators to allow them just to pump and dump their crap coins. I won't say the other word, but I don't think he was personally involved in this one. They exposed the gentleman who was heavily involved with this whole project, Hayden something. I think his first name is Hayden, and the guy admitted, and they showed evidence. People found tweets where this guy Hayden has a connection directly to Malay because he's been paying off Malay's sister, who is also another member of the government there next to her brother. So I think that's how they did it that way. And he said things like, "I own that guy," except he used the N word. He referred to Malay as the N word. He says, "I own that N word." It's crazy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I saw the sister was caught up in that scandal.
Yep.
That was interesting. Well, like, since we're on the topic, and this might be a good philosophical note to end on here, folks, but this is from CPAC a couple weeks ago in Maryland. And, when I see this type of thing, I think to myself, I can't remember who said, maybe it was my mother, I can't remember, said, "All the money in the world can't buy you class."
Yeah.
So that old proverb still rings true. And, this was just the most god-awful scene you could imagine.
Can we send this in a time machine back like 10 years and just say, people, will you believe that this is going to happen in 10 years from now?
I'm not even going to comment on the fact that he may or may not have been under the influence of something, because he was acting very strange. when he did that whole thing. So that's kind of a weird one.
It's the gas fumes coming off the chainsaw, Patrick.
Of course, you and I, or no other professional could get away with that. But it definitely has something to do with your bank balance. So yes, he is free as the king, as the monarch, special privileges. So yeah, this is a merit-based society. So listen, I predict that a lot of stuff is just going to end in tears. There's going to be, that politics, guys. And when you win, it's important to be magnanimous in your victory and not to rub your opponent's face in the pavement too hard, because it can be used to motivate your opponent. And one day you may not be in power. And it's always good to play good cricket, as they say in England. But Elon hasn't been playing good cricket, so unfortunately. So I think he's a little intoxicated on the trip of being the consummate center of attention and having all this political power, attacking world leaders and countries, threatening countries. I mean, it's just a little bit much. And the old saying goes, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So I think there's a kind of a proverb there, a fable there. And this guy is completely, I mean, listen, the left might be really clueless and lost, and they have been for a long time because of Russiagate and Trump derangement syndrome. But at some point, they're going to kind of get it together, and they're going to have some very strong arguments to make. Whether those are substantial or not is beside the point. They will be politically viable arguments, and they will be used to mobilize the masses. And when that happens, all I can say is, it will be game on at that point. So you don't want to give people additional motivation to really, really hate you. But that's kind of like Elon's on a bit of a trip, as are quite some other MAGAs as well. Their extended victory lap will extend for a little while longer, but you got to focus on what you got to deliver on the dream. And Trump's come in with some big expectations economically. And if he doesn't deliver on those by midterms, there's going to be, they might be looking at a swing in the House or the Senate or something. So I'm just saying, this is politics. There's no way around it.
I'm afraid that some of these factors, that sort of hope for decorum and enough forbearance to realize that the pendulum will probably swing back the other way. Like, I'm afraid that stuff is all baked into the cake now, and we're probably never going to go back to that. I think the right-left polarization, the politicization of everyday normal things like religion and health and all that has really put us in a dangerous spot moving forward. The partisan beatings shall persist at this point. I don't know if you saw the address to Congress, but wow, that was a stark view of what our political future looks like as it pertains to right versus left.
Yeah, that was pretty divided, pretty bad.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. So I'm looking at that, guys, and we'll wrap it up in a moment. But I'm practical, right? I'm practical. I don't want to be hated by half, if I was in charge, or if I was in the Senate or House. I don't want to be hated by half the country's representatives. There has to be some common ground that you can build there somehow. You really have to work hard to make that happen. Maybe it's impossible in the short term, but I don't know. It's there's also a limit to how many victims of woke policies you can thrust down the throat of the public during a joint presidential address. There's limits. Okay, 1, maybe 2, 3. But when you get into 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, it's a little bit much at that point. And as much as I support the issue and the intention behind it, there is also a fine line between using people as a political battering ram and being sympathetic to their plight. And I thought that they crossed the line a little bit there. And I'm not. I just hope conservatives and Republicans will be a little more classy about it. A little more sophisticated, a bit better, not to be like the other side. Don't be like the other side. Just be better than the other side. And I'm worried that things have descended into a very low level. Let's just say.
That's what I'm saying. It felt like when I watched that, I was just like, how many years is it before I start seeing scenes on Capitol Hill in Congress that remind me of things I've seen in other countries where chairs are being thrown, fists are clenching, or people are being thrown. Like, we see this in other parliaments and other places around the world before, and it's always like, oh my gosh, that must be some sort of third world country, or boy, they're having some crazy political strife over there. But now it's like you can easily see how this could turn into freaking Lauren Boebert and AOC in a fist fight or something like that.
It nearly happened. We came close with Al Green. Al Green stood up and was haranguing President Trump. They had to bring Mike Johnson, made the signal, bring in the sergeant of arms or whatever, the bailiff. And he was carrying a cane. He walks with a pretty substantial, New Jack City cane with an ivory handle top or whatever on it. And then if he had picked that thing up and whacked one of the stewards with that, and then somebody jumps in to grab, and then the Democrat jumps over the thing, and then all of a sudden we're there. We're in the Ukrainian Rada, mate. We're there.
Yep.
It's
not hard to imagine at this point.
Very close. Very close. You can't predict how that's going to go on live television. Like, I'm telling you. So you're right, Hesher. That's unspeakable in the past in America. We never ever even contemplated such a thing.
Yeah.
It was totally.
You know what else is unspeakable? Showing up at a official political event dressed like this. That was unthinkable very recently, but there it is.
Yeah, he's so cool. He's such a rock star. He's so cool.
He should have showed up dressed like Russell Brand doing the baptism.
That day might come. That day might come. He might.
Careful what you wish for, Ruckus.
If Elon gets high enough into orbit, he might see the light eventually.
I don't know if I'll ever witness or that we'll see an actual physical fight taking place on the floor of Congress. Maybe we will, and maybe that'll set the precedent. But I think ultimately we're headed more towards this technocracy. They want to turn more control over to algorithms, programs, less people, to avoid those types of situations. So maybe we have to have one. Maybe we have to have a false flag row in Congress before that takes place. But that scenario that you're discussing there, Hesher, I'm less concerned about that. I'm more concerned about a scene, the scenario that we saw in that movie American Psycho, where all of these wealthy business elites were sitting at the table, all jealous over each other's business cards. Because that I believe is where we're headed. All of these business elites, the billionaire wealthy class, they used to be able to get their fingers in the political pie through their lobbying and other forms of control, their money, their donations. And now they're there. They're part of it. They're inside. They're doing the thing. We got Elon Musk at CPAC. We got Elon Musk doing an interview next to the sitting president with football man Sean Hannity. And we're going to Mars, everybody. We're going to take the United States government to Mars.
This was the latest SpaceX launch, guys. There it is.
So real. This is totally real.
I know you love it, Ruckus. There's the catch there. That's the booster, the recyclable booster there. Warning, round Earth. I saw that. I can't unsee that. That was a round Earth. So, and there's all going swimmingly, and then all of a sudden it looked like an Iranian missile attack on Tel Aviv. So this is in Bag Samson Key in the Bahamas, and that's Elon's rocket, second consecutive.
What is that doing to the environment, everybody? Do you think that's contributing to climate change?
It's okay. It's because it's Elon. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. And I would if this was anyone else, If this was NASA, Elon would be, we're going to send in Doge. They're inefficient. They keep blowing up rockets. NASA needs to be defunded. They'd be tweeting, defund NASA, but not SpaceX. It's okay. It's all under control. It's all part of the process. Don't worry. We're going to get to Mars and build cities by like 2030.
Well, shoot, I hope he does a better job with the government than he did with his rocket there.
Yeah, and I wonder how Katy Perry and Gayle King feel about this sort of like common explosion of these rockets, because they both were told in the media, there's an article up at Forbes, are going to space. They're gonna hop on Jeff Bezos's rocket, if you could call it that. It looks like a pocket rocket, but anyway, and they're going to go on the first all-female mission to space. Can you believe that, folks? Katy Perry and Gayle King are going to space in Bezos's Blue Origin with a full female space flight crew for the low cost, you guys, of $200,000 for the experience. I mean, Katy Perry's probably got pairs of shoes that cost more than that.
Yeah, she's got a handbag that costs more than 200 grand, so it's not a big deal there. Yeah, I mean, you know, how I guess is that how Elon's going to fund the Mars mission? Because how much is that going to cost? $1 trillion, a couple trillion. We can just do a Doge, a mem coin. Just call Milei, get some influencers together, and just pump that thing. But they're probably, the rug pull on that will be so huge, and all of a sudden that'll be the end of the Mars mission. So they'd be like, build it up. They're like, should we go to Mars, or could I make 100 billion today? I'll make the 100 billion. Fuck the Mars mission. Let's pull the rug. So I mean, this is our future, folks. So I look, if you can't get to the moon, put somebody on the moon, please. Show us that you can do that. And then I'll kind of get behind the Mars concept, you know, but let's do the moon. Let's go. Let's spend 55 years. What are you guys afraid of? What's holding us back? Is it the fact that we don't have as good a technology in 2025 as we did in 1968? Is that what's is it computing power? I know we don't have the computers they had in 68. The Texas Instrument 16K running the lunar module. You remember the 16K?
Oh
TI?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, the Commodore 64 motherboard. Like, I know that we don't have that level of tech today, but at least try, right? Can we try? Maybe.
It's so weird. I woke up the other day and I had on my X feed, there was something from NASA, and they had this whole stream going. I'm trying to look it up on the fly here, because they had footage or they were landing something on the moon this week, and I couldn't help but just think, like, wow, this is like not a big deal at all. Like, nobody's talking about this. And then I tune into NASA's little live stream they have going for it, and it's just like nothing I you know, they're showing some images and stuff. I just thought it was really weird. Just like, okay, they're doing some kind of moon thing. I don't know, man. It's really weird. Yeah, Thursday, March 6th. Carrying NASA technology demonstrates science investigations. Intuitive Machines is targeting their moon landing no earlier than 12:30 p.m. on March 6th. So they had this Nova C lunar lander slated to land on the moon. And, you know, it's like this whole thing's going on X, and like nobody's watching it. I'm just like, wow, this is kind of weird.
Oh my gosh.
And I think it was a collaboration with SpaceX. But yeah, it's like SpaceX gets, you know, NASA's like a side note now. Like, no one's watching their X feed while they're doing, you know, fake moon landings or real. I don't know which. I couldn't tell from their broadcast because it was not anything of any sort of quality that was helping me discern if I was seeing something real or something fake.
They have a bigger following on Blue Sky, Hesher.
There you go. Okay. Well, I'm not there, so that makes sense.
Okay, it's blue sky. So I didn't want to do this, but you guys have forced me. You forced my hand today. I brought this up out of our archives here. This is from 2015. So yes, we've during our very liberal days of conspiratorial days, March 14th, 2015. And this is NASA engineer Kelly Smith, and he is explaining in this video, which is uploaded to NASA's YouTube channel. Okay. He was explaining the risks and pitfalls surrounding Orion's deep space mission to Mars. And he said the problem is that they cannot successfully pass through the Van Allen radiation belts. And I thought to myself, wow, that's quite a disclosure, right? This video was then pulled from NASA, but we managed to rescue it. Luckily, we got a hold of it and we re-uploaded it, so it exists. Unless it's been taken off YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've not touched this. I've got a link to the original video there just for the people to be fully transparent. But so somebody had captured this and then basically respun it here. So let's see if we can see this. Hold on.
Orion is getting ready to launch. My name is Kelly Smith, and I work on navigation and guidance for Orion. Orion is NASA's next-generation spacecraft. Built with versatility in mind, it can take astronauts deeper into space than we've ever gone before, to an asteroid or even onto Mars. For these missions, Orion has to be one tough spacecraft, withstanding high speeds, searing temperatures, and extreme radiation. Before we can send astronauts into space on Orion, we have to test all of its systems. And there's only one way to know if we got it right. No astronauts will be aboard. The spacecraft is loaded with sensors to record and measure all aspects of the flight in every detail. It all begins with launch, aboard a Delta IV Hesher. As the spacecraft and the upper stage begin their first lap around Earth, Mission Control in Houston is monitoring the progress of the flight. Orion's over 100 miles up and going about 17,000 miles per hour. Just as it passes over the Indian Ocean, we lose communication. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. It's great to be a part of this first space flight for Orion, and we're looking forward to beginning a new chapter in human space exploration.
There it is, guys. It's the issue.
why they not just study, like, I don't know, John Glenn or Buzz's body? They went through it 4 times.
It's great.
Right?
Yeah, they did, but well, they lost all the files, and the astronauts are all dead, and they didn't test them when they came back, apparently, or they did, but the records have been lost.
We lost those, right?
Yeah, because they weren't important.
You've seen the thickness and the build on, like, those Apollo 11 capsules and stuff, right? I mean, that was a tin can basically with a TI calculator running the computers, not to mention the strange what was that Wi-Fi they used to make those phone calls back to the president? I can't remember. I don't really understand how that works, but this guy's talking about shielding and navigation devices and stuff, and that thing looks a little bit more substantial than the things they sent up there before.
It does, and it's very naive of me, but I'm one of those weirdos who thinks that technology is advanced since the late 60s. So I am one of those really wacky conspiracy theorists who believes that somehow we have better tech today than we did back then. I know it's a revolutionary concept, but this is why this problem continues to baffle me. Anyway, that was, I don't know, that was 10 years ago. So I don't know what Kelly's up to today. He might have done a debunking video to deny that he said all this, which many of them do sometimes when they're doing things in public. And then all of a sudden the video gets pulled, as this one did. And then somebody does a podcast and with Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, oh, that's not what I meant. That's not what I didn't mean, that we have to test it. I mean that we already know, and we need to just confirm the results, and it's all a formality, right? And so, yeah, or Brian Cox or Neil deGrasse Tyson, or whoever the Bill Nye is, the other science guy. Yeah, the science guy.
Yeah, marginally.
So it's like it's all figured out. It's all done. It's all good. Elon's putting out pictures of cities on Mars now, so we should. He said, get ready, welcome to Mars. So I'm sure we're going to see that within Trump's first term. So I think I'm excited, that we're all going to be able to afford to live in a sort of high-rise Dubai style a flat apartment community, futuristic community on Mars. Yeah, that's the dream.
And here I am over here like some kind of caveman, just wishing that bullets and sandwiches were a little bit cheaper. I mean, maybe I'm not setting my goals high enough, guys.
Yeah, that's very selfish of you, Hesher, just thinking about the price of ammunition and the fact that eggs are, $14 for a dozen or something.
If you can find them. Ruckus and Spore and I went to town yesterday, and the egg department is basically just empty.
And why is that?
Because
Hesher, that's funny. You missed it. Actually, that particular store had moved them all into a stack in the middle of the store, like on a pallet, for some reason. And I was like, and they were advertising these eggs for sale. I think it was an Easter thing, to be honest with you.
Don't worry, guys. Ian Carroll's going to do a TikTok video on it, and it's all going to be solved. So
yeah, we can solve this with Cadbury eggs, I guess.
Yep. Has nothing to do with the fact that they're pumping a fake bird flu virus, making people believe that there's a thing called bird flu.
Yeah.
And culling birds and selling billions of dollars of vaccines to solve a problem that doesn't exist. It's nothing to do with any of that.
No, I'm sure it's for our own good, and we should eat the fluids that they're going to inject into these birds, regardless of whether they're experimental and they might mess with your genes or whatever. We should probably just do it because they do everything for our benefit, right? It's all about us.
As long as you're willing to get down on your knees and worship at the altar of the almighty virus, believe in the virus. That's the main thing. If you guys just keep the faith in the spike protein, the holy COVID spike protein, that rules us. It rules over humanity. We must worship it, fear it at all times. It's not a religion. It's not. I promise. It's not a religion.
No, yet somehow I will repent and put on 5 masks and make sure I'm 6 feet away from everybody. There's nothing ritualistic about that whatsoever. Pat, did you see that they're saying that Gene Hackman's wife, Beth, died of hantavirus?
I saw that. That's really too much.
This feels bad. I did not like the vibe I got from the reporting on his and his wife's and their dog's death. I'm not going to go full Randy Quaid about it today, but I mean, something is rotten in that narrative to me.
Yeah, a few doctors came in and said, I wonder if it's a hunter virus, whatever that is. Let's do a PCR test.
Came up negative. Do it again. Increase the cycles.
Increase the cycles. Positive. Imagine that. Hantavirus could be a thing.
Yeah. Can't go from person to person. Don't worry. But somehow it got to her. Worry. I mean, yeah, that's not a good, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
We have to worry about measles here in Texas, Hesher. We've got bigger fish to fry right now, my friend. Measles.
Is that the new deadly measles virus?
Yep.
Not the old one that's not deadly, that can't really do anything to you. No, the new one that's supposedly fatal. That one, is that what they're worried about?
Yes, and guess who it is exclusively killed thus far? You'll never guess. Oh, that's right. The unvaccinated are the ones who have died, apparently. Wow.
And a pangolin. Oh no, a pangolin just carried it. So yeah, very dangerous. So the measles, yeah, oof, that's been a scourge throughout humanity. Remember the black measles plague?
Yeah.
Read about that one?
We lost a lot of skin cells to the black measles plague of 2000.
Black measles plague. Yeah, it's a special kind of spike, but don't worry, they have an mRNA vaccine that will mimic the spike in the measles, and it will turn your body into a measles spike production facility and activate.
It'll give you one giant like black mark on your forehead that kind of looks like a cross. You got to be careful.
Yeah, that's a different kind of virus. Unfortunately, that is the virus of media megalomania, which is particularly acute amongst certain sections of the population. So you must be very careful and be aware of those. It's particularly vicious virus as well. It's particularly vicious. You definitely want to steer clear. If you see any of that in your town, that's like The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
that's 28 days later. Yeah, get out before the 29th day. If you see people like that running around in your orbit, you're done for. Anyway, we're being completely sarcastic here, folks. Because it is a clown show. It is an absolute clown show. But sometimes we have to vent. So anyway, that's all we got time for today. Guys, go ahead and give us a shout for your shows, podcast programs. What's coming up this week?
Well, let's see. There's a rumor going around that I might be being heard on the Pulse.today at some point this week. I cannot confirm, nothing completely solid yet, but just some things, some wheels churning in the background. So you may see me on the Pulse along with our friend Basil and a number of our other colleagues. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be posting in our Discord and on social media when we know more. We will be doing a boiler room, I think, on Thursday this week. So we got that to look forward to. And yeah, most of all, just thanks everybody for hanging with us, and apologies about the tech glitch. Patrick, I got a number of messages from some of our viewers and listeners saying, hey, don't worry about it. Totally get it. No problem. Thank you for your work. So yeah, we appreciate you guys' patience while we deal with self-producing and hosting all of our own stuff. There's a lot of buttons involved, and sometimes these things happen. But overall, really interesting show today. Sorry for all the sarcasm, but I think that's the best I can bring. A positive light today is a bit of a thick frosting of sarcasm, and it's great to be here with you. Thanks for having me on the show. Check us out at alternatecurrentradio.com, and that's it for me today.
Yeah, I think Patrick covered the big important news of the week with his stuff about Syria early on, and then I think we just kind of had a little bit of fun here afterwards, after the little mistake that we had, and we do love and appreciate the audience members for bearing with us through all of that, as well as my own issues with my program, but I got that all worked out. You probably already saw a nice new graphic behind me. That is not by mistake. It's something special that I'm working on right now. In addition to the Daily Ruckus podcast, which is returning next week in all of its glory, I'm going to do little extra things too on my X account on a much more regular as needed basis, to where here I can show you, it'll probably look something like this, where I will be inside my TV doing a quick hit on my X account, covering some important subjects outside of my Daily Ruckus program. That way I don't have to put on my makeup or do my hair. I can just hop into my static TV and do the thing and get it out out there real quick, okay? And then you'll also find me now every Monday night. I co-host Weaponized News alongside Sam Cheney. That's exciting. And then, of course, you'll find me on the Boiler Room, hopefully on a Thursday. Sometimes we don't make it for a Thursday. We try to do a catch-up show. And I'm back to doing music shows as well. So there's lots of Ruckus content coming your way, everybody. So make sure you're following me on my X account. It's AC_wordslinger. And otherwise, go to the website, alternatecurrentradio.com. And thank you so much for having me, Patrick. It's been fun.
Yeah, I like the tech special effects, Ruckus. That is great OBS magic happening there, I think. Amazing. So yeah, look forward to seeing some of that and some of your quick hits on X. Those will be good. Keep us on the loop, and we will be sure to repost and reblast any of that content. So we appreciate it. Boiler Room is happening this week, Hesher?
Yeah, it should be Thursday night, but there's a couple of contingencies we're kind of preparing for, one of which might be me being on the pulse and having to move things around. So we shall see, but keep an eye out on the socials and in our Discord. Again, we got more thanks running in. Thanks for all you do, Pat. We've got a lot of those in the Discord. We got a lot of those in the YouTube chat and over on the Rumble as well. So thanks again, everybody. And we will see you for a Boiler Room either Thursday night in its normally scheduled time or perhaps Saturday if Thursday gets bumped. So we'll see you there.
Yeah, and get see if we'll get a new probably a new graphic for Boiler Room. So see what magic we can whip up there on the visual side. But that was from the election, I think. This one still, it is great. The Guardians of the Galaxy raccoon type figure here.
Yeah, this was back when they were the government was rounding up people's pet squirrels and exterminating them, and the squirrel memes were going hot right around the time of the election.
Oh God, I remember. Yeah, I remember that. That
It was supposed to be Peanut the squirrel.
Yeah, Peanut. That was his name.
That was when Biden was taking out squirrels. That's
Biden's final act of defiance, pardoning everybody and killing people's pet squirrels and raccoons. What a strange way to make that transition.
That was peak Democrat back then. So yeah, they really couldn't go any higher at that point. So yeah, thanks for keeping that one alive. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And Pulse today. Hopefully be seeing you or seeing some more activity there. Great content as always. Basil Valentine's also active on that platform as well, and Ruckus as well. Thank you very much. Bryan McClain, Adam Clark, aka Ruckus, Hesher. Thank you guys very much. It's been a very, very enlightening conversation today, and I hope we can do it again. We will be tuning out at the moment. We'll be hopefully see you guys on the midweek wire. We'll be hopefully joined by Freddie Ponton again, and we had a great midweek wire this week, and we've had some very informative shows. We'll also be having some other political conversations on there as well. And again, go to our X feed and see, particularly this one, Syria and the Levant, what's coming next. We had a great Middle Eastern-based commentator and philosopher, very well connected to things happening on the ground there. Who joined us, Bakar was his name, and it was a very enlightening conversation. And of course, this is my 2 or 3 hour monologue here at X as well. Those are both in my feed, so there's some additional content there. And again, we're providing a lot of this for free, folks, and we can't do that without your support. So we really appreciate the support we have gotten during the winter fundraising drive. Any donations or subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. to help make it happen for us. And we're also doing Friday at the UK Column News as well. It's another program that I've been adding to our schedule, working with the team at the UK Column. Great team there, Brian Garish and Mike Robinson and all the rest. Mark Anderson as well. So yeah, it's been very interesting. There's a lot going on. We'll do our best to cover as much as we can. And we really appreciate you guys. And thank you again. And apologies for the audio dropout in the first segment, at the end of the first segment. Again, that's a technical issue I think we'll be able to overcome. We just have to do some research tonight, and we'll be able to fix that problem for sure. But I appreciate you guys bearing with us on that very awkward period of 15 minutes of silence or whatever it was. You're probably wondering what the hell we're ranting on about, but I assure you, if it was just going out into the world, into the ether, it was powerful, and hopefully it will arrive one way or another through the ether, through the conversation. Well, anyway, we'll do that. We'll do this discussion again. I might even record something and then re-release it, which is covering all the points, maybe in a more refined way, maybe in a better way than we did on the live stream. So that's something we'll probably try to work on as well. But anyway, that's all we got time for today, folks. And I really appreciate you guys for joining us. And also thank you to everybody out there in the chat rooms at 21stcenturywire.com. We do have the embedded Rumble stream now on our show page before the show begins, which is a great convenience. So appreciate Rumble for improving their tech. We're able to take advantage of some of these features, and that's been great. So it's made life a little bit easier for us as well. So thank you. And that's it. That's all we got time for. All the best, you guys. Keep an eye on 21stcenturywire.com, and we shall see you in the midweek. All the best.
Gratitude, the antidote. The world is built on fear. The evil world we live in wants our soul to disappear. But gratitude, salvation, and never any light that transcends all the darkness trying to hold us to the night. Thoughts say what is missing, thank you says what's here. Thoughts keep us unconscious, thank you makes it clear. Back into the moment, the vast eternal now, where God is always with us and holy like a cow, like a sunrise or a child or a garden full of roses. The mind misses the magic and considers all the poses. Why our thoughts against us, principalities are there, whispering indifference on foundations of despair. So thank you is my mantra, mantra. Na 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 na. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. Who set up this funhouse, this journey for our soul, where most never make it and lose all their control? How do we get back any sovereignty from the lies of demons that we pretend to be? Thank you is a pass to a place outside of hell. Gratitude and presence will lift us where we fell, but we have to make a practice to come back into now, in the garden of our gratitude, and push that ancient plow. I don't know the reason we are in a holy war, how we ever come back to who we were before. Did it start in Eden with an apple and a snake? Since then, have we been falling with this battle as our fate? So thank you is my mantra, mantra. Na 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 na. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. The world will light us, and so will our minds. So will our minds. Whatever is the reason, this is where we are. The light and the darkness are aiming for our heart. The light wants us present in the clutch of gratitude. The darkness wants us scattered with an evil attitude. And we look at the thinking that justifies the course. We see it's thought itself that brings on the divorce. From the Holy Spirit, from revelations bloom, from the love of God to the darkness of the tomb. Voices of all demons we identify as us, and then we follow lies, the wrong voices that we trust. Take us to destruction, take us to despair, when the gift of God himself has always just been here. So thank you is my mantra, mantra. Na 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 na. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. mantra, mantra.